In this story, the thief encounters this young man. To distract the people following him, the thief gives the young man a very valuable box stolen from the Alliance. Then he escapes, but the young man stands there wondering what just happened. Seeing the box in the young man's hand, the pursuing Alliance members suspects the two are allies. They set out to capture this young man named Kang, but what they don't know is that Kang is just coming back from the mountains, learning 3 great martial arts from his martial master. These 3 martial arts include achieving enlightenment through the way of Buddha, strengthening one's internal and external body with the supreme ultimate skill of Wudang, and finally, the heavenly demon divine art from the heavenly demon cult. So he decided to make them his first prey upon leaving the mountain and entering the martial world. He wondered if there is anyone among the pursuers that have mastered the 3 ultimate martial art that his master talked about, although there wasn't anyone particularly strong among them. But he decided to tread carefully because they might be hiding their skill on purpose, because according to his master, those who have reached the peak often appear as if they know nothing about martial arts. A man among the pursuers stepped forward. He told Cheon that it seems like he have gotten himself involved in a troublesome situation. The man then addressed himself as Zhang Samgun of the Shandong Yitai sect. Just from the way he touches his beard, you would know that the man is just a typical side character that would end up dying in the most worthless way possible. He told Cheon that it seems like an innocent person like him has fallen victim to the wicked schemes of a ruthless scoundrel. He then told Cheon to just return the item and continue on his way. In return, he would guarantee his safety in the name of his sect. But Cheon had no idea what kind of crappy sect is Yitai sect, since he had never heard of it. At the same time, another group of people appeared. The man told the Yitai sect people that this place isn't a place for the likes of them to interfere. People were in shock to see the man. The man is Wang Dai of the Black Intention sect, although they were pissed at the fact that even the barbaric members of the Black Intention sect have come to take a piece of the pie. But they couldn't do anything because he isn't someone they can just mess with like that. Cheon was like, "What the hell is this all about for another sect to have arrived?" Sam Gun vigorously told Wang that this matter is being closely watched by many martial arts sects in Shandong, as well as by the 9 great schools and various noble families, so the people of Black Intention sect shouldn't act recklessly, and they should know their place. But as the man was yapping, a sword energy was pierced through his forehead, creating a hole in his head, and so the typical side character died without even knowing how he died. Like for real. He was just yapping, acting high and mighty, as if he is some strong hidden boss or something. No one knew what the hell happened, but they thought Wang was the one who did it. Wang stuttered panically. He told them that they weren't the one who killed him, but one of the Yitai sect member angrily lashed out and he said, "Stop lying, vile Black Intention bastards. You guys don't even have the pride of a martial artist to have ambushed someone from behind." But the guy who was yapping was shot from the head from nowhere, and he was sent straight to the afterlife. Not just him, multiple bodies started falling down like rain. The main person behind the death then arrived. He told them all to stop talking and fight. Because a real martial artist fight with their strength, instead of flapping their mouth around. Shivers ran down through their spine as they saw the man. The man is Ju Xiong, and he is popularly known as a demon. Wang, who has only an eye left with the face that is more ugly than that of a chimpanzee, stuttered. He politely said to Xiong while shivering all over, "How did you get here?" But Xiong gave him a death stare. He said to him, "How dare a wretch like you speak to me?" Of course, people like Wang are always useless as expected. They act strong to the weak and cowardly to the strong. Song then told them all that he won't speak for long, but they should all get out of his sight before he opens his eyes and close it. As expected, the fool immediately ran away with his tail between his legs, but Xiong refused to just let him go like that. He then hit his leg on the ground with force. The stone on the ground rose up as they are being controlled by his energy, and so he kicked them all at once directly at Wang and his subordinates. The fool couldn't defend against such a simple attack, and he was knocked down together with his subordinates, while the remaining survivors ran away for their lives. Seong laughed since the place had finally quieted down. He then said to Cheon, "Hey country bumpkin, if you don't want to end up like them, just hand the item over." Cheon broke the box open. He asked Song if he is talking about this small golden bottle. Song was surprised that Cheon undid the seal of the box so easily, but he decided to keep his composure. He then said to Cheon, "You have saved me some unnecessary effort. Now then hand it over." But to his surprise, Cheon opened the bottle and drank it. He was so pissed, but he noticed that Cheon looks like a rookie, so he smiled with evil intent because there's no way Cheon could fully absorb the blood demon essence. And just because he swallow it doesn't mean it has become his. At the same time, Cheon licked his lip because the content in the bottle tastes like sweet. Seong then said to himself, one need the right internal energy to dissolve the blood demon essence. And his body's the perfect physique to absorb it, so he deemed Cheon to be just a vessel for the blood demon essence since he doesn't have the necessary physique. And so he charged out with his hand filled with energy to go take Cheon down. He was determined to chew and swallow every drop of Cheon's bone marrow. But as he was about to land a hit, Cheon looked at him as if he was looking at a pitiful fly with broken wings, and with just a swing of his hand, he was able to parry the guy's attack without any internal energy imbued in his hand, as if the guy's punch was from a 2-year-old. If I was that guy, I would have stopped fighting, destroy my Dantia, and retire from the martial world to go live in the village because of such insult. But rather than doing that, he decided to continue fighting. He couldn't believe that Cheon was able to block his Sagana, which is one of the 32 techniques of the sacred name secret art. So he furiously told Cheon that his Sagana has never missed its prey. Even those arrogant bastards from the Jegal family barely managed to block it, leaving scars all over their body. Like, for real, why the hell is he lashing out at Cheon? Or is he trying to tell Cheon to stand still and embrace the punch? Cheon threw the golden bottle. He was like, hey, you're too loud. Running your mouth like that doesn't prove you're really strong, so come at me with all you've got. That way I can test just how strong I really am. At that moment, Seong was shivering all over because he thought Cheon's strength was as a result of absorbing the blood demon essence. Let's talk about what the blood demon essence really is. The blood demon essence is a miraculous elixir made by gathering the vital blood of 100 martial arts masters and melting it down with the internal energy cultivation method of the blood demon, and it's said to have terrifying power. Just as horrifying and shameless as its method of creation, the moment you succeed in absorbing it, you can gain the strength of 3 full cycles and undergo a rebirth, transforming into a heavenly martial body. Just so you guys know, 3 full cycles is the same as 180 years worth of internal energy. As the demonic cult continued to kidnap martial arts masters to use as ingredients for this cursed elixir, the Righteous Alliance launched a surprise attack on one of their factions, the Blood Sect. Only after a bloody battle and finally defeating them did the existence of the blood demon essence become known to the world, but whether in the hands of the righteous or evil, the blood demon essence would certainly drench the world in blood simply by its existence, and that blood demon essence has now appeared in Shandong. Suddenly Seong angrily roared, which scared out all the birds in the area. Like, I don't really get, is he trying to have some kind of power up like Goku while screaming? If that's the case, he fatally failed at it because his roar was only able to scare birds, and it sounded like noise to Cheon's ear. He couldn't believe that Cheon was still intact after he poured out in so much internal energy into that roar, with the aim to cause at least some damage to Cheon. Cheon sarcastically asked him if making noise is his specialty. He then said to him, now that you are done crying, why don't you try your next attack? Song said to himself that there must be some mistake because there is no way his attack could be blocked. He then looked at Cheon. He noticed that Cheon was full of openings, so he decided to make use of this opportunity to take him down with his full strength. But Cheon already appeared in front of him before he could land his hit. Cheon smiled. He told him that he got tired of waiting, so he came to him. It was at that moment that he knew that he is in big trouble. Cheon then struck him directly at his abdomen where his dantia is located. At the same time, at another scene, the man who was running earlier was finally killed, and on his hand is the same box that he gave to Cheon earlier. The people who killed him deemed his excessive greed to be the cause of his death, since the blood demon essence isn't something a guy like him could handle from the start. But suddenly, they heard a scream. They immediately noticed that the voice belonged to Seong. They deemed it quite surprising that someone as strong as him would be screaming out in pain like that, although he's wild, and an unruly guy with no real foundation. But his skills at least qualify him to go after the blood demon essence. But they didn't care about him. They decided to leave since they have secured the box, but to their surprise, Song's corpse was thrown at them with a big hole in his stomach, and his corpse rolled down the ground. They were surprised to see that Song was defeated, since Song wasn't someone to be taken down easily. Suddenly, they heard the footsteps of someone approaching them. That someone was no other than Cheon. Cheon was surprised to see another batch of people. One of the side characters then rudely asked Cheon to identify himself, but Cheon spoke back, "Who are you to speak to me rudely right off the bat?" The guy was like, presumptuous. He then said to Cheon, "How dare you show no respect when the future head of the Jegal family is here?" The so-called future head of Jegal family told the guy to stop talking. He then asked Cheon if he is the one that put Ju Seong in such state. Cheon was like, is that guy's name Ju Seong? I don't really know, not like I care, but yes, I dealt with him. I didn't think he would die that easily though. The guy who was yapping earlier couldn't believe Cheon, so he told Cheon to stop talking nonsense since Seong is one of the top 100 martial artists in the current martial world. So, there is no way he would expect him to believe he was taken down by a kid. Cheon was dumbfounded at the fact that the guy is such a high-level martial artist. He then told the yapping guy that there is nothing he can do if he doesn't believe him, but he would entertain him if he still want to fight. And he would definitely make him end up like Seong. The guy couldn't believe his ears. He got really pissed. So he decided to teach Cheon some manners. He then told his underlings to go take down Cheon. They obeyed, and they immediately surrounded Cheon. But to their biggest surprise, Cheon wasn't your average Joe, since he was swiftly dodging all their attacks. The so-called future head of the Jiggle family had no idea what the hell was going on, although Cheon's stance was full of openings, but he is dodging all the attacks. So he thought maybe it's as a result of him taking the blood demon essence. The yapping guy called the guys who were fighting pathetic fools. He then charged out to go fight himself, although future Jiggle leader tried stopping him but he didn't listen. The guy told everyone to stand back and he would handle Cheon himself. Cheon immediately clenched his fist to counterattack as soon as he dodges the guy's attack. His plan was a success, but as he was about to strike the guy's abdomen, his attack was blocked by the so-called future head of Jiggle family. Cheon was like, "You are lucky the punch was stopped, or else you would have been sent to meet Dharma." The man immediately placed his hands behind his back after taking that hit. He laughed, and he told Cheon to calm down since it seems like his people has been a bit rude. He then told Cheon that there is no benefit of turning such small matter into a big fight. So he suggested that they should end their scuffle right here. The man let out a smile just like someone who just found a honey mine. He told Cheon that he is Jiggle Shik of the Jiggle family, so he kind of politely asked Cheon for his name. Cheon replied, "I am Kang Cheon." As a means of reference, we would be calling the man Shik. Shik then asked Cheon which sect is he from. Cheon replied, "I don't have one." He said to himself that there is no way he can have a sect since he just escaped from a crazy master a while ago. Shik was shocked when Cheon told him that he doesn't belong to a sect, but he didn't question further. He then told Cheon that they'll withdraw for now, and if fate permits they should meet again. So he told his underlings that they should leave. This came as a surprise to them all. The yapping guy told him that they haven't taken the box to retrieve the blood demon essence. But Shik told him that it was all a trick. The blood demon essence in his possession was fake. He then showed the yapping guy his hand. His hand was a bit damaged after blocking Cheon's blow. Also, the fact that Cheon was able to dodge dozens of their attacks with nothing but flawed movements proves that his strength is no ordinary. And such strength at such a young age can only be gotten when one takes the blood demon essence. He was sure of it since Cheon is one who killed Jusong, and he is also the one made his palm looks terrible. His strength at such a young age would only be because of the blood demon essence. The yapping guy then asked him what they should do now. Shik replied, "There's nothing we can do here. We'll have to rely on the power of the Alliance." Shik was like, "Damn," as if the appearance of the blood demon essence wasn't enough. Now there's someone who has absorbed it. He was worried because those vicious scheming demons who have been lying in wait might start moving again to get their hands on the blood demon essence. And so they all left the mountain. Some minutes later, Cheon approached the dead man's corpse. He picked up the box that was on the man's hand. He forcefully tried opening it, but it seems like it was sealed tightly, but it was until he put in all his strength. Almost shitting his pants, that is when the box finally got destroyed. He let out a breath of relief since he thought his hand was going to break. He then put his hand in the box to bring out what is inside it since it has caused him so much trouble. But to his surprise, the content inside the box was a red pill. The real blood essence pill. What he took earlier was just a sweet liquid placed inside the golden bottle. But Shik and the rest misunderstood his strength to be as a result of him taking the blood demon essence. Little did they know that the real blood demon essence was right in front of them all along. Some hours later, somewhere within the Jiggle estate, Shik reported to Jiggle Cheon, the head of the Jiggle family, that Cheon has absorbed the blood demon essence. He had no idea how it was possible for Cheon to have absorbed the blood demon essence because, according to what they know, the blood demon essence can only be dissolved with the internal energy cultivation method of the demonic cult. Shik also knew about that, since they shed a lot of blood to learn how to dissolve the blood demon essence. Cheon then told Shik that he can't just expect him to believe that someone new to the martial world managed to dissolve the pill without using the internal energy cultivation method of the demonic cult. Shik then decided to show him his hand as a proof that what he is saying is the truth. Cheon couldn't believe his eyes when he saw the intensity of Shik's palm injury. And so he finally believed that the pill have really been absorbed by Cheon. Shik then said to his father, "Are you aware that there are certain physiques capable of absorbing the blood demon essence?" Cheon replied, "Yes, there was one such physique. Until the person who left your hand in such state appeared. And now it seems like there are two physiques capable of absorbing the blood demon essence." Cheon told Shik that if what he say is true, then our protagonist is in a very unfortunate situation, because possessing a treasure is a crime, if ever there was one. He then asked Shik if he have found Cheon's whereabouts. Shik replied, "Fortunately, he's still within our sphere of influence. He have instructed the people in Jinyang village to treat him well." Shik then told his father that he is yet to report the blood demon essence being absorbed to the Alliance. Cheon said to him, "That's good, there's no need to reveal it yet." But suddenly, someone appeared. The person said to them, "You are all having quite the interesting conversation. The man is one of the elder of their clan." Shik was shocked to see him, so he asked the elder if he overheard what they said. The elder told them that there is no way he won't. When they were talking so earnestly, he then sat down and he let out an evil smirk. The elder name is Taeyong, and he's nicknamed Changwang Fist. He is the tyrant of Shandong, a supreme master even the Jegal family can't easily handle. When the power of the demonic cult became overwhelming, the martial world formed an alliance to oppose them. The alliance is called 9 Great Schools. Although Taeyong is not affiliated with the 9 Great Schools, yet he is considered just below the top 10 martial artists of the current martial world. This is why, despite their formidable power, the Jegal family is on edge about his appearance. Taeyong overheard all they said about the blood demon essence. He then told them that it would be better if they all kept their mouths shut about it. Shik said, "What do you mean by that?" Taeyong replied, "It means that what I heard could be forgotten if necessary." There is quite some schemes going on there, each of them trying to outsmart one another. Taeyong then stood up to be on his way out. Shik politely bid him farewell. On his way, Taeyong decided to make Jinyang village his next destination in order to capture Cheon and take the blood demon essence for himself. At the same time, Jegal family head, who was acting as if he wasn't interested, let out an evil smirk because Taeyong have taken the bait without knowing that Cheon have dissolved the blood demon essence. Taeyong rushed out at full speed to Jinyang village. He said to himself that although Cheon might have a physique that can dissolve the blood demon essence, but what if he haven't properly mastered martial arts? Then that means if he take Cheon with him, he can still drain out all his blood and get the blood demon essence for himself. If that was to happen, then he would be able to take the top 10 martial artist spot, since those old top 10 martial artists should have had their fill by now. At the same time at Jinyang village, our boy Cheon is being served tea and treated respectfully. He drank the tea, but he don't get what's so great about drinking it since it tastes bland. And water seems to be more better than it. That aside, he found the people in the village to have ulterior motives since they are treating him so well without any proper reason. He was ready to take them on at any time if they tried to do anything dirty with him, but he calmed down. He decided to try and live peacefully since he had finally escaped his master. Suddenly, Taeyong arrived. He immediately went straight to the point by asking Cheon if he is the one who supposedly consumed the blood demon essence. Cheon replied rudely, "It seems so." Taeyong was quite pissed at how rude he was. But he doesn't care about his character since that wasn't the reason why he came. He then grabbed Cheon like a baby and flew out of the village. Cheon was like, "What the hell is this dude doing?" At the same time, Taeyong smiled since he had finally gotten the blood demon essence. After carrying Cheon to fly for a while, they landed on an empty field. Taeyong looked around to check if there is anyone following him. But what surprised him the most was the fact that Cheon had escaped from his hand without him knowing. Cheon was like, "Dude, are you smoking or what? Why the hell did you just grab someone and carrying them like luggage?" Taeyong was like, "Sorry, but you'll have to become my elixir." If you guys still remember, our protagonist's name is Kang Cheon, so let's start calling him Kang instead of Cheon because Cheon sounds somehow in the ear. At first, Kang had no idea what Taeyong meant by elixir, but he later realized that what Taeyong meant by elixir is that he want to eat him. Taeyong told him not to worry because when they get to the Alliance, they'll find a way to extract the blood demon essence from his body without harming him, and he'd also be compensated if he cooperate well. Kang said to him. So all the gibberish you have been saying is that eventually you'd suck me dry, so I should just stick to you like a medicine pouch on your belt, Taeyong replied. Your response is kind of cheeky, but you are right. Kang was like, what if I refuse to let you suck me dry? Taeyong looked at Kang angrily, and he said, you want to refuse? Stop joking. When an elder shows kindness, you should be grateful and accept it and get some rice cake out of it. But Kang told him that it would be insane to entrust his life for the sake of some rice cake. The fact that Kang keeps talking back was really pissing him off. He then told Kang that it seems like he needs a good beating to learn some manners. He then charged out angrily to attack Kang. But halfway before the punch could land, he was like, damn, I didn't control my strength. I got too worked up by a rookie's provocation and ended up using a lethal move. Such a disaster, since there's no point in taking a corpse back to extract the blood demon essence. But to his biggest surprise, Kang blocked his attack with one hand. He had no idea how Kang was still alive after receiving his punch, but he thought that maybe his power is as a result of the blood demon essence. If that's the case, he said to himself that if someone who hasn't even properly learned martial arts can produce such kind of strength by drinking it, then the power would be unimaginable when fully absorbed. Taeyong was really getting excited, and he's tempted to test Kang's strength further. Let's take a pause for a moment. All this fools have been thinking that our protagonist's strength was as a result of him taking the blood demon essence. But what they did not know is that the blood demon essence pill is still with him, and he haven't taken it at all. He doesn't even know the purpose of the pill yet, since he is new to the martial world. He just took it and kept it in his pocket because people were fighting over it, so he deemed it as something that has a bit of value. Taeyong then activated his Changwang fist in order to test how strong Kang was. He then launched multiple jabs at Kang, but Kang confidently blocked all the attacks with ease. Taeyong continued testing out the limits of Kang's strength. He was impressed to see that even though Kang's movements are clearly those of a beginner, but he's managing to discern the strengths and weaknesses of his technique. But what surprised him now is that Kang's power is already surpassing his, and bang, Kang landed a punch on Taeyong's face. Taeyong immediately stepped back. He couldn't believe that Kang actually hit him. Kang was like, whoa. He was surprised that he landed a hit since he was just swinging randomly. At that moment, Taeyong realized that Kang's strength isn't from taking the elixir, because an elixir can't teach untrained martial arts skills, he said to himself. It must have just been pure luck that my reckless punch was able to hit its mark. He then said to Kang, you've got quite the descent punch. Kang was like, oh, your mouth is still working. But Taeyong furiously told him to shut up, and he'd make sure he understand exactly who he have messed with. He said to himself that he'd have to beat some sense into Kang before he'd listen properly, because at this point, even if he have to kill him, knocking him down comes first. He then activated his Changwang fist. And so he launched multiple jabs at Kang again, but Kang wasn't scared one bit. At that moment, Kang remembered what his master told him while they were fishing. He asked his master if the strongest fist technique is that of Wudang, but his master looked at him without saying anything. Kang was like, yes, of course, excluding my master, is the strongest fist technique that of Wudang? His master replied, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that Wudang contains every method of using the body in its fist techniques. Kang had no idea what he meant by every method, so his master explained. He then said, because I have grasped the flow of power, power depends on who uses it and how they use it. If it flows straight, then it becomes the hard fist of Shaolin, which can shatter rocks. If it flows in a circular motion like a wave, it becomes the Wudang fist that can withstand a rock with just a small force. And so, Kang decided to see if he can put what he have learned to use. Standing in front of the punch that Taeyong was sending at him, he quickly found the weakness of his jabs, and he was able to offset his attacks, and bang, he sent Taeyong flying. Taeyong became furious, so he decided to take the fight seriously by powering up like Goku. The Changwang fist that Taeyong was using is rooted in Shaolin. Taeyong was among those called the Soka disciples. They are those who did not leave the temple and are taught by Shaolin. Taeyong once asked his master for the reason why he won't teach him the Yijin Jing. His master told him that there is no reason for him to achieve enlightenment in Buddhism, since he is a secular person. But Taeyong told his master that if he can become stronger than others, then he's willing to learn and understand it. His master angrily called him a fool for misinterpreting the teachings of Buddha, since Buddha have never taught someone to become stronger than others. But Taeyong took his master's words as nonsense, because to him, the logic of the world is that you have to win to become strong, and become strong to win. Taeyong was not satisfied with what he learned as a secular disciple. and he never stopped striving to become the best in the world, so starting from the foundation of Shaolin. He reached the pinnacle of his own martial arts through bloody research, and that is how he came up with Changwang Fist. Kang deemed the aura that Taeyong was exuding to be that of a master. He remembered his master telling him that the martial world is filled with people stronger than him at every step. And now he have come against someone that he deemed at least strong. After successful power-up, Taeyong charged out to attack Kang with the determination to tear him apart. But despite his power-up, Kang wasn't scared, because he doesn't consider Taeyong to be one of those stronger people that his master mentioned, and so he dodged Taeyong's punch. At that moment, Taeyong was sweating all over, and he couldn't believe that his Changwang heaven-splitting fist was dodged that easily. But what comes next was completely unexpected. Kang launched a direct blow to his abdomen just like how he had been doing to others. Taeyong couldn't believe that someone that is definitely new to the martial world, with clumsy technique and full of flaws, was able to easily dismantle his Changwang fist, which he perfected over a lifetime of practice. So he was like, who the hell is this monster? Taeyong immediately went down on his knees, groaning in pains, but Kang didn't stop his attack. He grabbed his head, used his knees to land a fatal hit directly on his face, and he immediately went unconscious. After some minutes, Kang woke him up, and his face was looking all beat up as if he was stung by a bee. He had no idea what the hell happened. The only thing he could remember was him trying to use the Changwang heaven-splitting fist on Kang. Only to be countered. He thought he was dreaming since there is no way him, the master of the Changwang fist, would fall to someone so young, and so he tried standing up, but to his surprise he coughed out a huge ton of blood. Kang told him that he should better not push himself, because he have placed a restriction that will shatter his Dantian if he make a wrong move. He told Taeyong that the restriction he used on him is the one his master always used whenever he tried to escape. Taeyong was like, what kind of trick did you use, since restrictions aren't something just anyone can place, and especially not on the body of a master like him? But Kang wasn't interested in his bullshit. He then stepped on his chest with force. He told Taeyong that he seems to be mistaken about something. He told him that he's not as nice as he look, because he had been tormented by his crazy master his whole life. So if possible, he'd appreciate it if he didn't get on his nerves, and so he removed his leg from Taeyong's chest. Taeyong then said, what do you want? Kang smiled since he's now asking the right question. He then said, from now on you are mine. This, our protagonist, seems to be giving gay vibes. I never expected him to have a fetish for muscle men. Some hours later, in the Jaegal mansion, Cheon and Shik were scheming and plotting with each other. They were talking about negotiating with Taeyong when he obtains the blood demon essence, over the secret of absorbing energy. They deemed it as a good bargaining chip, since the secret of absorbing energy is something Taeyong desperately desires. Cheon was like, indeed, Taeyong is someone who would definitely sell his soul if it meant reaching the top 10 martial artists, and their Jaegal family is willing to buy his soul. Shik added, if we could hold the leash of a top 10 master-level hunting dog and clear the path ahead, then becoming the leader of the alliance of noble families wouldn't be far off. Their schemes and plot were already becoming intense, but they have no idea what is in store for them. Suddenly, someone announced that Taeyong has returned. Shik smiled because it seems like Taeyong have secured the blood demon essence, and so they went out to meet Taeyong. They were surprised to see how beat up Taeyong's face was, so they asked what happened, but Taeyong didn't reply. Rather, Taeyong told them that from now on, he have decided to take Kang as his disciple. Kang then said politely, I am Kang Cheon, please take care of me seniors, but Shik and Cheon wasn't happy about it since it seems like they have been outplayed. Let's go back to the time before they arrived at Jagal Estate. Kang told Taeyong that he should become his subordinate, since it's the natural cause of someone that has been defeated. Besides, he hold his life in his hands. He told Taeyong that he have made it so that he must receive the Chugungwa blood extraction from him once a month, or else he would end up dying. But Taeyong laughed out loud. He told Kang that he might as well kill him. He then said, you may not know this because you're stuck in the mountain, but my name Taeyong is widely known as just below the top 10 martial artists in the world. So there is no way you'd expect me to serve a young green brat like you just to keep my life. He added, saying, dying a disgraceful death on the streets would be a more honorable end for a martial artist than becoming such a laughing stock. Kang said to him, you martial artists are really something else. You value your precious life far less than meaningless name. But I understand how you feel because I wouldn't want to tarnish the name Taeyong even if I make you my subordinate since he need his name for a reason. He then told Taeyong that he can make him stronger, so he should reconsider his offer. Back at the Jaegal clan, Shik and Cheon were angry at the fact that Taeyong chose Kang as his disciple. They thought Taeyong was just a brute who only knew how to use force, but they never expected him to use his brain. Shik then said, now that Taeyong, who's close to being one of the top 10 martial artists, has secured a young disciple who swallowed the blood demon essence, and with his name Changwang Fist, he can build power. Cheon angrily slammed the table because if Taeyong power increases, then they'd be nothing more than dogs chasing after chickens, and their plan to put a leash on him would completely fall apart. Shik then told his father that there is still a way out. The way out that he was talking about was to snatch Taeyong's disciple, and they hope he's not a loyal disciple. The way out that he was talking about was to snatch Taeyong's disciple, and they hope he's not a loyal disciple. At another scene, inside a rundown wooden house, Kang was meditating before he was called by someone outside. The person told him that Shik wishes to see him for a moment, and he'd like to meet him alone. Kang said to himself, why did he want to meet me alone? He's giving gay vibes, and it seems like that sly old fox must be planning to sow discord. He then followed the person who came to call him to go and meet Shik. At the same time Taeyong saw them leaving, he was pissed because those Jaegal cunny foxes are up to something. They arrived at Jaegal mansion after walking for some minutes. Kang asked him for the reason why he called him so late at night. Kang added, saying, I don't think my master would be pleased to see us meeting like this. Shik said to himself that Kang is sure loyal for someone who hasn't even been a disciple for a day. He told Kang that he would get straight to the point since he don't have much time. He then said to Kang, rather than training under Taeyong, why not join our Jaegal family? Kang was like, what? But I have already chosen Taeyong as my master. Shik said to him, you know as well as I do, that even though Taeyong is a master, he has no foundation or power. In other words, even if you become his disciple, no one in the martial world would recognize you. Kang replied back, my master is nearly one of the top 10 martial artists, so with his level of skill he's already strong enough to support me. But Shik told Kang that he is too naive if he thinks skill is everything. Whether someone is top 10 martial artist or close to it doesn't really matter because nothing lasts forever, but the only thing that can last for hundreds of years is a sect. A sect with a long tradition and reputation would eventually produce top 10 martial artists, and that's the strength of a prestigious family, just like the Jaegal family. He boastfully told Kang that the Jaegal family, which wields undeniable influence over the entire martial world, would be his strong backing, and he's sure that he haven't fully absorbed the blood demon essence yet. Kang was surprised by his words. He then said, does that mean the Jaegal family has a way to absorb the blood demon essence? Shik replied yes. He told Kang that the blood demon essence was created by the demonic cult during the Great War of Justice. The martial alliance which subdued the demonic cult also researched the method to manufacture the blood demon essence, and the secret technique to dissolve it, and now the Jaegal family has secured that technique. But while he was talking, Taeyong arrived. He said to Shik, that's an interesting story. Is it true that the Jaegal family has a technique to absorb the blood demon essence? Shik stuttered, that can't be true, but Kang replied, yes master, he clearly said that. I heard it clearly with my own ears. Shik was pissed. He realized that the two bastards have set a trap for him. He couldn't do anything about it, so he told Taeyong to calm down and listen to his explanation. But Taeyong lashed out at him saying, shut up you bastard. I have the authority granted by the Alliance to investigate, so I am arresting you immediately on suspicion of colluding with the demonic cult. Shik tried to talk his way out, but Taeyong didn't give him the chance to. Taeyong then said to Shik, how did the demonic cult's secret manual end up in your hands if you weren't colluding with them? At that moment, Shik realized that he had fucked up since he was caught red-handed. Kang then said, master, if I may ask, what is the punishment for someone who colludes with the demonic cult? Taeyong replied, of course it's death. Shik was speechless since he had nothing to say. Kang asked Taeyong if he had the authority to execute on spot since he is an inspector. Taeyong replied yes. Kang then said with evil intent, not only did he collude with the demonic cult, he also tried to drive a wedge between me and my master with deceitful tongue. So I believe it's only fitting to execute him immediately to eliminate future threats. Shik couldn't believe his ears. He wondered how much more did they intend to push him into a corner. There was silence for a moment, so he thought they were expecting him to kneel and beg like a dog. But Kang stepped forward. He told Shik that he will carry out the execution on behalf of his master. Even Taeyong couldn't believe his ears because him executing Shik is different from what he mentioned earlier, but he couldn't do anything because he is working for Kang. Shik immediately lashed out saying, "How dare you? Do you think you can lay a hand on me? I am Jigal Shik, the eldest son of the Jigal family and the future head." But before he could alter any more word, Kang punched him directly on his face. Even Taeyong never expected him to go that far. Kang was disappointed because he died without even being able to defend against such level of attack, so he deemed him not fit to be the heir of the Jigal family. Taeyong worriedly told him that he shouldn't have killed him since they would have gotten what they wanted if he was alive. But Kang told him that they need to eliminate any future threats, because if they were to let him live, who knows when the cunning bastard would stab us in the back, Taeyong added. Even so, you've killed the eldest son of the Jigal family, so how are you going to clean up this mess? Kang was disappointed in Taeyong. He then asked Taeyong if he's afraid of the Jigal family, but Taeyong was like, "What? How could you even say that?" Kang told him that the Jigal family is a prestigious name, just as Shik said, but that very name, which is supposed to be their strength, can also become their weakness. Kang then asked Taeyong if he understood where he is getting at. Taeyong replied, "Yes. They can frame not just Jigal Shik but the entire Jigal family for colluding with the demonic cult." Kang said, "Exactly. We'll accuse them of not only collaborating with the demonic cult, but also secretly monopolizing the secret to absorbing the blood demon essence." He added saying, "What do you think would happen if we report this to the Alliance? Even a rumor of their involvement would ruin the Jigal family's reputation for the head of a prestigious family. That's probably the most terrifying scenario." Taeyong told him that, although he might be right, but Jigal Cheon has lost his eldest son, so as a father who's lost his family's future, his instinct will be to seek revenge first. Kang then said to him, that so-called future head only holds value if the Jigal family's name is preserved, so he asked Taeyong if he want to bet whether Jigal Cheon will prioritize revenge for his eldest son, or the honor of his family, but Taeyong couldn't reply. Kang then told him to better handle the situation well, unless he want to fight the entire Jigal family since the old man will be here soon, probably in blind rage. Taeyong was pissed since Kang was the one who made the mess, and now he want him to clean it, but he couldn't complain because his life is on Kang's hand. Some unknown time later, Jigal Cheon arrived on site together with his family martial artist. He was really angry and furious when he saw his dead son's cold corpse with a distorted face. He then asked Taeyong the inspector, "Why is his son dead?" Taeyong replied, "He was executed." Cheon looked at him while trembling all over. He told Taeyong that even if he is an inspector, he should at least assess the crime first, rather than carrying out an unjustified execution. Taeyong told him that his son confessed to colluding with the demonic cult. Cheon was shocked upon hearing what he said, but he kept his composure intact. He shouted at Taeyong to shut up. He told Taeyong that not only did he kill his son, but now he's trying to pin baseless accusations on him, and so he told Taeyong and Kang that none of them would be leaving the place alive tonight. The guards immediately unsheathed their swords. He then ordered them to kill the two of them, but before they could get any closer, Taeyong stepped forward with his feet imbued with energy. And with just a stomp on the ground, he was able to take down all the guards without killing them. He then said to them, "Everyone here knows that my disciple here consumed the demonic cult's elixir, the blood demon essence. Yet just a moment ago, Jigal Shik sent someone to summon his disciple, claiming that the Jigal family had secured the secret technique to fully absorb the blood demon essence and offering to bring him into the Jigal family." Cheon lashed out. He told Taeyong to stop saying lies, but Taeyong didn't say anything. Rather, he looked at the two guards of Jigal Shik. The two couldn't refute what he said because they knew he was telling the truth. Taeyong then said with vigor, "As an inspector of the Alliance, I ask the Jigal family this. How did a secret manual of the demonic cult end up in the Jigal family's possession? Answer me, Jigal Cheon. Why are you keeping such a dangerous text?" But Cheon couldn't reply since he knew that Taeyong's claim was right, so he told Taeyong that it seems there's some misunderstanding. Taeyong then told the people of Jigal family to listen well and make their choice. Will they oppose him and live on as a family that betrayed the martial alliance? Or will they cooperate to clear their name from the stigma of colluding with the demonic cult? They all couldn't reply, and since they don't want their family name to be tarnished, Cheon told them all to sheathe their swords, and just like that, Kang took out one of his threat without suffering any loss. 4 days later, on a particular sea, a ship was being attacked by pirates. The pirates made an announcement that from now on the ship belongs to the Surojai, and if they want to live, they should drop all their cargo. There was a man on the ship who refused to drop his belongings, but as he was about to get killed by one of the pirates, the pirate hand was chopped off without him knowing who did it, screaming out in pain. The leader of the pirate arrived not knowing what was going on, but when they all looked up, they saw the girl who cut off one of their members' arm. She was looking so cute and beautiful, maybe she's a waifu candidate. The pirate leader told the lady that he is the master of the Jianggang waterway, Sul Yong Han. Sul Yong then said to lady, "You seem to have some martial arts training. What's your name? It would be nice if you came from a prominent family so I could get a good ransom." She told him that knowing her name won't do him any good. After all, they are going to end up as fish food today. The pirates all laughed out loud at her joke. She then told Sul Yong that since he have introduced himself, it's only polite to respond in kind, but he should please remember it well even in the afterlife. She then told them that her name is Li Jichong, and as soon as she told them her name, they all charged out to attack her. A few hours later at Hyungju, Taeyong and Kang sat on a chair together with other audiences. Taeyong saw Kang looking around confused, so he laughed happily. Kang asked him for the reason why he is laughing. He replied, "For a country bumpkin like him, it must be overwhelming to realize that he's standing in Hyungju, the city known as the heart under the sky." Kang was a bit pissed, so he activated the restriction place on Taeyong, which made him feel pain. Taeyong told him to stop since he was just joking. Kang then asked him why the hell are they here in the first place. Taeyong told him that Hyungju is where the Martial Alliance's headquarters is located, and as an inspector of the alliance, he have to report what happened with the Jegal family. So regardless of the fact that they have something on them, he still need to report the reason for killing the heir of the Jegal family. But Kang told him that he have already heard that on their way to Hyungju. But what he still haven't know is why they are sitting here and watching that weird guy's match. Taeyong replied, he told Kang that he's the official witness for today's match and there's someone he really want him to see. He told Kang that the person he want him to see is Li Jichong. But Kang had no idea who the hell that is. He then asked Kang if he have at least heard of Shinwu, the best sword of Hwasan, but Kang couldn't recall ever hearing such name nor title. Taeyong was really pissed at how foolish Kang was, so he told Kang with vigor that Shinwu is the best sword of Hwasan. He's said to be among the strongest among those who didn't make it into the top 10 martial artists. Some even say that his skill rivals that of the top 10 martial artists. Kang was like, "Hold on. Wait a minute. Didn't you say that you're the one right below the top 10 martial artists?" Taeyong replied. Of course, the old man Shinwu was just someone strong in the past. Kang then said politely, "I understand, master. Please calm down." Taeyong sat down. He told Kang that Shinwu is the master of a disciple that he have been raising with all his might, and he's the future of Hwasan. He could be his competitor when the time for competing for a spot among the top 10 martial artists of the next generation comes. Kang smiled. He said to himself that he would sure remember the name Li Jichong. At the same time the weird guy on the arena approached them. He greeted Inspector Taeyong. He told Taeyong that if he permit him, he would like to challenge his disciple to a match. You see, guys like this are side characters, or let's say, they are worthless scums who think they are the strongest, and they always die in the most useless way possible. Suddenly, someone came rushing towards Taeyong. The person told Taeyong in his ear that the original opponent, Li Jichong, is late, and since the guest have grown tired of waiting for the match, it would be best for his disciple to fight. Without so much thought, Taeyong permitted his disciple to fight, and so that was how Kang found himself in the arena. Kang told the guy that won't he be put at a disadvantage if he end up fighting 2 matches in a row. The guy told Kang that it doesn't matter, he'll just consider his match with him as a warm-up. Kang was a bit pissed since the guy was looking down on him. Taeyong said to himself that the guy whose name is Jomgangjo Madan is the top disciple of the dark spirit Huigon, and now a disciple of Huigon who is one of top 10 martial artists, is fighting against his disciple. Although if Kang was to win, his reputation would rise as well, but for some reason he feel like rooting for Madan. Kang told Madan that he would make sure not to hurt him since it's just a warm-up, but Madan told Kang that although he's taking their fight as a warm-up, but he's not planning on being so kind since he never learned how to fight without killing his opponent. He then activated his claw, which is his weapon. At the same time, Kang was ready to make him regret his words, so as soon as the drum sounded their battle began. Madan immediately took an offensive stance, but Kang was busy doing some weird stance. Even the audience were laughing at him for doing such a stupid stance. They were laughing and making mockery of him for being an unworthy disciple of Taeyong's. Even Taeyong himself was quite pissed. He couldn't believe that Kang was able to block and dodge his move with that sloppy stance. But he said to himself that if Madan dares underestimate Kang, it'd cost him big time. Madan said to himself that he heard Kang is new to the martial world, and that he swallowed the blood demon essence. So he decided to make sure that Kang pay the price for recklessly stepping into the martial world without any proper skills. He then charged out to attack Kang with the aim to kill. The audience were surprised to see that he really intended to kill Kang despite it being a warm-up match, and as soon as he landed his hit, he thought he was successful at taking down Kang. But to his surprise, Kang dodged his attack by jumping mid-air. The crowds couldn't believe their eyes, but Taeyong already expected him not to lose the fight. Madan had no idea what the hell was going on, nor how Kang was able to dodge his attack. Kang was picking his nose as if he wasn't interested in the fight. He told Madan that he is so slow, and it seems like those claws are only useful for picking nose. But instead of getting angry, Madan smiled since he just remembered his master teaching. His master told him that even when hunting a rabbit, a beast always gives its all. He then said to Kang, "Not bad, but this time, you'll need to give it your all if you want to survive against me." But Kang confidently told him that if he was to give it his all, his life would be in danger. Madan activated his claw, and he told Kang to stop talking and he should take the fight seriously, so he charged out to attack, but Kang was able to dodge his strike. Although he was surprised for the second time that Kang was able to dodge his attack again, but this time around his strike aren't over. He then launched multiple strikes, and he was confident that Kang won't be able to escape his grasp, but he was still unable to land a hit on Kang. The audience was surprised at how fast he was. They had no idea if he dodged the attack or if he got hit, but since he is still moving, that means he's dodging the attack, although Kang was dodging the attack. But he was quite pissed since the guy didn't come here for a match, but he came to kill, since his strikes are all lethal moves. Madan was already finding the spar to be difficult, and he was like, what kind of training did Kang go through to be this fast? But as Kang was about to land the final hit with his punch, they were both told to stop. They stopped immediately as their attack was about to hit the weak part of their body, and their battle ended halfway since the real contestant Lee Ji-chong has arrived. She apologized for being late while looking messy with blood all over her body. Taeyong and the audience were surprised to see her. At the same time, Madan said to Kang, "You are so lucky, rookie." But Kang told him that he didn't fare so well though. Madan was like, "What do you mean?" But Kang didn't respond. One of the arena supervisor immediately approached Ji-chong. He worriedly asked her if she's alright because of the blood all over her body, but she told him that it wasn't her blood. And it was those of the bandits that she ran into on her way while coming. And their leader is a man named Sul Yong-han. Everyone was in shock when they heard the name Sul Yong-han. They couldn't believe that she killed the master of the Zhonggang Waterway. Even Taeyong was surprised because Sul Yong may have been a ruthless bandit, but his skills were said to be impressive enough to catch the attention of masters. But Kang told Taeyong he isn't interested in knowing the guy, so he should keep his explanation to himself. Taeyong lashed out while telling Kang that he lacks the proper attitude to learn. Madan and Ji-chong battle began. Madan was like, "Wasan has really fallen. How desperate must they be to stake the future of their sect on a mere girl, although she might attract attention with her pretty face. But he's going to make sure that such a beauty fall today at his hands." There was no movement for some seconds, so Ji-chong decided to attack first, and so she started doing all those awkward dance in order to prepare for a battle technique. But there would always be some people that would be amazed by those stance. Not me, though. Taeyong was amazed to see that she's starting the 24 movements plum blossom sword technique, so he started explaining to Kang that at its peak, it blooms like plum blossoms. But Kang was like, "Can you stop explaining, master? I already know that much." Ji-chong continued doing her unimpressive movements, but there were some goats that were impressed by it. Madan immediately attacked, since he couldn't wait for her to finish preparing her attack. He launched multiple strikes at a very fast speed, but Ji-chong was still able to parry them off, although she was having quite the difficult time blocking all the attacks. The crowds were surprised to see that Ji-chong is being pushed back. At the same time, Madan smiled. He said to himself that his master should watch closely. Whether it's Changwang Fist or Wasan, he would defeat them all. And he would make the name of Hamon resound throughout the martial world. He then launched a lethal strike, but Ji-chong dodged it, and it was only able to cut her hair. Taeyong said to himself that Homon's speciality is its unpredictable and ever-changing techniques, and for a young prodigy like Ji-chong with lots of training but little real combat experience, the battle would be a tough one for her. He then said to Kang, "My brilliant disciple, who do you think will win?" Kang replied, "The girl will win." Taeyong was surprised by what he said, because the girl is being completely overwhelmed. but Kang told him that although she's overwhelmed, but she's still blocking all the attacks. Taeyong said to himself that what Kang said is true, but it doesn't look like she'll have any chance to counterattack. Kang then said, "It's about time," and as soon as he said that, Madan felt something strange. It was as if his body wasn't in rhythm with him. Zhishang, who noticed his weak moments, immediately activated her technique by doing her weird movements, and bang, she struck Madan, but Madan was able to block it. The girl didn't stop at that. And as she was about to launch another strike, she noticed that something was wrong with Madan. So she immediately retracted her sword, and to her surprise, Madan coughed out a huge amount of blood. Taeyong couldn't believe his eyes. Kang then said, "It's happened exactly as I planned. Madan should have gauged his opponent better and act more cautiously." At first, Taeyong had no idea what he meant, but he realized that Kang was the reason why he coughed out such amount of blood because of the punch earlier that almost hit Madan's abdomen. And so the prideful guy died in the most useless way possible, without even knowing what exactly happened. The audience were in disbelief at the fact that Madan lost the spar. Even Zhishang couldn't believe it herself. Some hours later, at another scene in Haomun's sect, Madan's corpse was brought back to his sect to be inspected. His master told them to take off the cover from his body to see his cause of death. They did as instructed. And when the cover was removed, the master saw that a hole was made in his abdomen. He touched Madan's forehead, and he asked them what the cause of his death was. One of the inspectors replied, "Well, I can't be sure," the other inspector added, "from what he saw. Madan collapsed and was spitting blood during the match, so he suspected that it might have been due to the opponent's internal energy technique." The man then asked them if Jichong used internal energy, but the inspector was unable to reply. The man was really pissed, but he calmed down. He then told the inspectors to ensure that no details are overlooked in the funeral arrangements. They replied, "Yes, master." As the man was heading out, he said to himself that Madan wasn't someone weak. He could have held his own against anyone in real combat, yet he lost to a novice from Hwasan. And on top of that, he was taken down by internal energy. He was really pissed to the extent that he scratched the walls with his hands. He couldn't believe that Hwasan has reached such a level. Same night, in the Miram Alliance, Taeyong and Kang was having a conversation. Kang told Taeyong that deaths can occur during matches. He then told Taeyong not to be pretending as if he is worried about Madan's death since it doesn't suit him. But Taeyong told him, even so. He didn't expect his death because the aim of the spar was to prevent such incidents by having only the senior disciples from each faction compete in order to prevent accidents. But Kang told him that if Madan had won, Zhishang would have been dead. Taeyong was like, whatever. He then told Kang not to act recklessly since the atmosphere is tense. Kang said to him, "Why should I do that?" Taeyong didn't reply at first, but he shyly replied, "Because you're too strong." Even him don't want to admit it. He then told Kang that standing out won't do him any good. Kang looked at him and he was like, "Hey, aren't you too immersed in playing the master?" Taeyong couldn't believe his ears. Kang then stood up. He told Taeyong not to overstep. He'd handle his own affairs, and so he left. But on his way, he thanked Taeyong for the advice. Taeyong was quite pissed at himself since he doesn't know why he's even worried about Kang. He was like, just go ahead and die already. At another scene, inside the Martial Arts Alliance banquet hall, while everyone was enjoying themselves, Zhishang stepped out of the hall. She wasn't happy about her victory against Madan, because she knows he didn't die because of her attack. She suddenly remembered Kang almost landing his punch at Madan, so she suspected Kang, the person who is the disciple of Taeyong, to be the cause of Madan's death. But while she was thinking, she saw Kang walking through the street. At the same time, the sect leader of Haomun was watching her from the roof of a building, with his eyes filled with murderous aura. As Kang was walking through the street, he was impressed at how beautiful and lively it was. He was like, no wonder it's called Hyungju, the city beneath the sky. It sure lives up to its reputation. He said to himself that the city really makes him feel like he have finally escaped his master, but he have no idea what to do now since he have never experienced the secular world. He doesn't even know how to enjoy himself properly since there is nothing he knows of, so he decided to just watch people because he thinks it should be the most entertaining thing to do. At the same time, Jichong was following him. She said to herself that the guy seems to be the disciple of Changguang Fist Taeyong, and since she's unable to use Lightfoot Qinggong because of the crowd, she decided to follow the alley, but she suddenly felt a very dark energy, and the next thing that happened was finding herself in a pitch-dark space. She panically looked around since she had no idea what was going on. A voice from within the dark said to her, "To be caught by such a simple trap shows that you are really just a rookie." Jishong immediately asked for the person's identity, but the person told her that she is in no position to ask questions, rather she would be the one doing the answering. The person then asked her what technique did she use to kill Madan, but she had no idea what he was talking about. Due to the fact that he asked her about the death of Madan, she got a hint of who the person might be. So she said to the person, "Are you the elder Amyangsu Huigon?" But the person told her to just answer the question. As a means of reference, we would be calling the man Huigon. Huigon then asked her again, "When you killed Madan, did you use internal chi manipulation?" She replied, "No, I didn't." Huigon suddenly got pissed since he thought she was lying, so he attacked her with his energy. At that moment she was unable to move. Huigon then appeared before her. She said to him as soon as he revealed his identity, "What is a top 10 martial artist like you doing by attacking a weak girl?" But he didn't respond, rather he grabbed her neck tightly. He told her that she possesses extraordinary beauty, and he believed that Madan was bewitched by her face. Jishong said to him, "It is not like my beauty is a crime since Homun also specializes in using beauty to deceive someone." He called her a cheeky brat, because she wasn't begging in such situation where she should be begging for her life. Jishong told him to do his worst because at Hwasun they don't teach such things like begging. Huigon got really pissed by her stubborn attitude. He told her that if dying is your wish, then he'll grant it for her, and his disciple would be waiting for her in the afterlife. His grip became more tight, and as she was about to die due to lack of oxygen, Huigon noticed that something was wrong, and to his surprise, his dark territory was shattered. And as soon as the thing that tied her got loosened, Jishong immediately did a backflip to escape Huigon's grip, breathing heavily in the process. The person who shattered Huigon territory then said to him, "You trying such filthy tricks suit your looks better." Huigon turned around, and he was surprised to see the person that was covered all through in a black cloak. He then activated his energy on his finger, and he flicked it towards the person's location, but the person was fast enough to dodge it, and in the process the attack shattered the place he was standing on. The person jumped very high up the moon. He then landed in front of Huigon. He told Huigon that harassing a woman in the middle of the night isn't something an honorable martial artist would do, unless he must be a worthless bastard with no honor, but Huigon angrily said to him, "Shut up, you scoundrel." He then sent an attack from his fingers towards the person, but the person swiftly dodged and parried off his attack with the aim to counterattack, although the counterattack was quite unexpected, but Huigon was able to block the strike. The force that came from their clash was quite intense. Even Jishong was finding it hard to stand her ground. She wondered who that person was since the person is fighting on equal terms with the top 10 martial artist. The person then launched another punch, but Huigon still blocked it. Huigon then activated his territory and he immediately disappeared into it. The person knew that Huigon was trying to use his dirty tricks again, so he was prepared for anything that would happen. As expected, Huigon launched an attack from within the shadows, but the person was able to block everything, even counterattacking in the process. The person then jumped up with force, and with just a single punch, he was able to shatter Huigon's shadow territory. The person asked Huigon if the only way he can fight is by hiding in the shadows, but since Huigon didn't reply, he decided to go into the shadows himself. Huigon then said to the person, "So it was you who killed Madan." The person was like, "Ah, so that arrogant guy was your disciple. It's not like I expected much from him because I had a feeling he was no good. Like master, like disciple." Huigon smirked. He told the person that he is indeed strong. It's to be expected that his disciple would die since he didn't stand a chance against him from the very beginning. He then said to the person, "It's quite bold of you to have walked into a death trap while knowing how strong you are." He told the person that he shouldn't have stepped into the shadows, because a true master never fights on an unfavorable stage. He then activated his energy around the person's body, but the person wasn't your average Joe, so he forcibly freed himself from the binding, at the same time destroying Huigon's shadow territory. The person told Huigon that he's tired of his petty tricks, so he should use a better skill if he claims to be a top 10 martial artist. Although Huigon was pissed, but he knows he can't defeat the person with just petty trick, so he decided to make use of his ultimate technique, the 18 shadow technique. Jishong, who noticed the technique he was using, immediately warned the person to be careful, since the technique isn't to be taken lightly. At the same time, Huigon finished preparing his attack, and he launched it directly at the person. There were multiple shadow hands that were sent to Huigon. Jishong thought the situation was dangerous, so she decided to go and help, but she was surprised to see that the person was countering the 18 shadow technique. He countered it all, and he immediately went to counterattack by launching a swift strike with his hand, but Huigon parried it off with his hand, and he immediately went to hide in the shadows again. But to the person's surprise, something unexpected happened. He realized that Huigon isn't just hiding in the darkness. Rather, he has become one with the shadows to attack. The person deemed such a feat to be fascinating. But he wasn't scared either. He went ahead to confront the shadow, and he was successfully able to block and parry off Huigon's attack. Huigon never expected his ultimate attack to be blocked so easily. He then said to the person, "Who are you exactly?" The person replied, "If I were going to answer that, do you think I'd be hiding my face?" Huigon didn't say anything. He then looked back. He angrily told Jichong that she got lucky today. He then left in the shadows. The person also decided it's time for him to leave, but he was stopped by Jichong. She thanked him for saving him, or else she would have been killed today. She was like, "I don't know how I'll ever repay this debt." The person was like, well, I wouldn't go that far. Seriously speaking, why did he have to think that deep? It is not like she's gonna offer him her body or something, or maybe she might, who knows. Jishong then told the person that she would be sure to repay him if he tells her his name, but the person told her that he had no intentions of telling his name. He added saying, "Just in case if someone comes asking for cooperation while discussing what happened today, she might have the chance to repay her debt then." She said, "Okay, I will keep that in mind." The person then bid her farewell. He then jumped and left through the roof. But as soon as he left, Jishong was like, "The person somehow seems familiar." Morning reached. Taeyong asked Kang where he was last night. He scolded Kang Yu for already sneaking out at night even though he's so young, but Kang was focused on his stretching without replying. He then told Taeyong that he have a request to ask. Taeyong was surprised. He asked him if he is really going to ask for a request, rather than ordering around, since a master never make a request of a servant. Kang asked him if he prefers him giving an order instead, just to remind them of their relationship. Taeyong didn't want that either, so he told Kang to go ahead with his request. Kang then asked him to teach him Changwang Fist, but Taeyong was like, "What?" He couldn't even reply back for a moment since he was surprised by his absurd request. Kang then asked him if the request is that difficult, but Taeyong told Kang that teaching him the Changwang Fist is impossible. Kang really got pissed. He was like, "Maybe I should just give you a command, but first, let me give you a stern warning." Taeyong lashed out at Kang for not having any conscience, because to a martial artist, martial arts are more precious than life, and even though he have taken control of his Dantian, he would rather die than surrender the martial arts he have trained his whole life for, so he might as well kill him since he would rather die protecting the Changwang Fist. Kang was caught off guard there for a moment. He was like, You do have a point when you put it that way, but officially I am your disciple. People would find it strange if a disciple of Changwang Fist Taeyong doesn't know how to use the Changwang Fist. Taeyong told Kang to stop sugarcoating it up with a reasonable excuse to force him to teach him since he knows what he's really after. Kang said to him, "Remember, I promised you earlier that I would make you stronger, so I need to learn your Changwang Fist in order to do so." Kang then turned around to leave. He told Taeyong that if he refused to teach him, then there's nothing he can do, but then he can say goodbye to becoming one of the top 10 martial artists. Taeyong was surprised by Kang's words. He couldn't refuse the temptation of becoming stronger, and he was like, "This guy knows me too well." Some minutes later, Taeyong began teaching Kang the 3 basic techniques of the Changwang Fist called the Changwang's Arrival, but Kang said to him, "My master always said this. If you want to pursue the ultimate martial arts, you must not cling to just one technique. Even Shaolin, which is revered as having the ultimate martial arts, limited itself by focusing only on linear power movements." Taeyong lashed out at Kang. He was like, "What the heck are you talking about? Shaolin deliberately concentrated on one direction and took it to the highest level. That's what my Changwang Fist is about." Kang told him in a calm tone, "You're right about that, but arguing won't get us anywhere, so take a look at what I am about to do." Kang then began his demonstration. At first Taeyong wasn't impressed by whatever he was about to do, but upon seeing Kang displaying the Changwang Fist basic technique and utilizing it to maximize its output, he was so damn impressed. He was shocked to see the changes in his own technique, because just by changing the connection between the techniques, the destruction power has increased. Kang then said to him, "How's it? Have I keep my promise a little bit?" But Taeyong was unable to reply for a moment since he was shy to admit the improvement to be great. So he asked Kang without a single ounce of shame if he should teach him a bit more of the Changwang, but Kang was like, "Aren't you the one refusing to teach me earlier?" Suddenly, someone came to meet Taeyong. He told Inspector Taeyong that a letter has arrived from headquarters. He took the letter and read it. but he was surprised by what it entails. Some hours later in Beijing, Martial Alliance headquarters, Taeyong report what happened to Jigal family to the Martial Alliance leader, Li Zhongseok. As a means of reference, we would be calling the Martial Alliance leader Zhongseok. Zhongseok told him that even if his report is accurate, the incident is too significant to just let it slide, because from the Jigal family's perspective, losing their future head is a huge blow. But what makes it more strange is the fact that they didn't argue about it. He tapped his hand on the table and he said to Taeyong, "There is a rumor going around that it was actually your disciple who killed Jigal Shik," but Taeyong replied with a bit of panic in him, "It's just a rumor." Zhongseok was like, "Of course it's just a rumor. I trust your report, but the families believe they can't let the incident slide, and as a leader of the alliance, I have to take some action, don't you think so?" Taeyong said to himself that Martial Alliance leader Zhongseok may be the head of the Martial Alliance, but he's essentially a puppet set up by the various sects to serve their interests, so even if he oppose him, it would be futile, since the real power lies in the hands of the 10 families. Taeyong then asked Zhongseok, what action does he plan to take? Zhongseok replied, "I am assigning your disciple to the Special Task Force of the Alliance." Taeyong was surprised at the word Special Alliance, because it's a training ground for the younger generation of the various sects. Officially, it's for training, but in reality, it's where the sects send their disciples to handle tasks they can't manage on their own, and also use them as hostages to keep each other in check. If a young martial artist who just consumed the blood demon essence is sent there, the others will pounce on him like wolves on prey, and if there are any factions with a grudge against him, then things would go for the worst. Zhongseok told him that there is one more thing. He want him to take command of the task force. Taeyong was like, "Do you mean me?" Zhongseok replied, "Of course, or don't you want to?" Taeyong told him no, of course. It would be an honor. But isn't that position usually held by a top 10 martial artist? Even the current commander of the task force, Namgung Chong, is a top 10 martial artist. Zhongseok said to him while about to drink his tea, "Does it say anywhere that the task force commander must be top 10 martial artist? Even Namgung Chong should be retiring soon, besides. The generational gap is becoming too wide." Taeyong said to himself that what Zhongseok said is nothing but a convenient excuse, since he's planning to throw Chong into the mix, while knowing it will cause trouble. And he wants him to clean it, so whatever happens, the blame will fall on him. What a cunning man indeed. Zhongseok then told him that once Namgung Chong returns, he'd hand over command to him, so he told Taeyong to be prepared. Taeyong was like, "Huh, what's Namgung Chong doing in Henan?" Zhongseok replied, "There are rumors that remnants of the demonic cult have appeared," Taeyong said to him. "If they're just remnants, there's no need for an old man like him to go out personally. Or is there something I don't know about?" Zhongseok replied, "There have been reports of Jiangxi appearing, and it might even be a poison Jiangxi. So Namgung Chong has taken the first squad of the task force to eliminate them." Taeyong asked him if the first squad he's talking about is the squad he is thinking about. Zhongseok replied, "Yes, that child is among them." Some unknown time later, somewhere in Hanam, in a mountain, there were numerous corpses on the ground, and they were all being attacked and killed by a Jiangxi, and as the Jiangxi was munching the person it just killed. It was attacked by a sudden sword energy, although it tried dodging it, but its hand was cut off, and it was done by a man named Namgung Chong. Chong was pissed since the demonic cult bastards have finally created a monster. The Jiangxi rushed to attack with it one hand. Such a monster would still try to bite even if all its limbs are severed, and the only way to kill it is by cutting off its head to incapacitate it. And so Chong chopped its head down, but it was still struggling, so Chong pierced its head with his sword. Chong was like, true to its name, it's relentless to the end. He then asked his underlings how many poison Jiangxi are left. The person told him that they have dealt with 2, so there's 1 more left. Suddenly, someone came rushing over. He told Commander Chong that he should come take a look at something. After walking for a while, they arrived at a place where a Jiangxi was killed. Chong was surprised to see the Jiangxi corpse, but he deduced that it must be the doing of the kid named Sangyeon Rin. The kid is known as the hope of the martial world who might break the top 10 masters system that have lasted for decades, and the guy is known as the next generation greatest martial artist. Honestly, I don't know why the guy is jumping up to the sky. Maybe it seems like he is fighting something in the sky. Some unknown hours later, at the Special Task Force training ground, many martial artists were training, but as soon as a guy came over, they started covering their nose because he smells quite bad. Even the guy didn't realize he was smelling until he smelled himself, so he immediately apologized shyly. Someone approached him, and he said to the guy that he thought he smelled something foul, but it turns out that a beggar walked in. The guy who was smelling was like, "Oh, it's you, the one they call the three-talent Namgung Cheol." Cheol was surprised that the beggar knew him. The smelling guy was like, "Of course, your reputation is well known in the martial world, and you're known as the #1 candidate to inherit the Namgung family, known for excelling in 3 areas. Cheol was feeling himself at that moment, but he acted as if he doesn't care about praises. He said to the smelling guy, "Is my name that famous?" The smelling guy replied, "Indeed." He told Cheol that first, his swordmanship is exceptional. The second is that he have a talent for poetry and literature. And the third is, he have a way with women. Cheol was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" But the other guy in the area started laughing because what the smelling guy said was true. He then asked the smelling guy about his identity. The smelling guy was like, "Are you talking to me?" But someone touched him from behind all of a sudden. The person said to him, "Hey Jang Sam, how are you doing?" The guy was surprised to see the Shaolin guy named Cha Yun Gun. The smelling guy whose name is Jang Sam was like, "Ah, I knew you'd be here." Without the future of Shaolin, the special task force would be nothing but an empty shell. At the same time, Cheol was surprised that Sam is acquainted with the future of Shaolin. As a means of reference, we would be calling the smelling guy Sam, and as for the Shaolin guy, we would be calling him Yun-gun, while the so-called handsome guy would be called Cheol. Yun-gun asked Cheol if it's the first time meeting Sam. If that's the case, he told Cheol that the smelling guy is Zhang Sam, and he is the 6th disciple of the beggar sect. Cheol was surprised that Sam is a 6th disciple. Sam asked Cheol if he's surprised that someone as young as him is already at the 6th knot, so he told him not to be too surprised since he have got some luck. Cheol said to himself that he knows about the hierarchy of the beggar sect. The sect leader is at the 10th knot, the guardians are at the 9th knot, and the key masters are at the 8th knot. But what's surprising is that someone his age is already at the 6th knot. Sam then asked them who else besides them have arrived, but to his surprise he saw Li Jishong, and over at the other side is the Ice Princess of the North Sea, Seol Aeron. He was like, it's hard to say which of them is beautiful, but he was surprised to see that Cheol was already blushing for the pretty girls. So he placed his hand on Cheol's shoulder, and he said to him, as expected of the 3 talents, always after pretty girls. Yun-gun then asked Sam if he knows who the person that just arrived is, but Sam doesn't know about our protagonist since he haven't seen him before, but he suddenly remembered who he was. So he told them that if his information is correct, the person is the one who consumed the blood demon essence. Upon hearing the blood demon essence, they realized that he is the one they say Changwang Fist Taiyang took as a disciple. Suddenly, an announcement was made that Namgung Chong has returned, and as soon as the door opened, the person that came through it was the top 10 martial artist, Namgung Chong, together with some injured martial artist. And as soon as Sam saw their sorry state, he was like, so Jiang Shi appeared in Henan, and it seems even the first squad of the special task force had a hard time. Yun-gun and Shaw were wondering how the hell does he knows everything. But what surprised Sam the most was when he saw the monster they say is the next generation's greatest martial artist. Not just Sam, everyone was surprised to see him, but the most surprising thing was when Kang and the guy eyes clashed. Sam said excitedly, "Oh, have they recognized each other? The future of the martial world trained by a top 10 master, and the successor of the Changwang Fist who consumed the blood demon essence." At another scene in a particular room, a light blue liquid was spilled on the ground, and in the room was a man holding a girl with blood flowing through her mouth and her nose. The girl's hand was covered in something that seems like a poison. She then pierced her poisoned hand into the man's chest to inject the poison, and she finally passed out after fulfilling her mission. The guy was crying, and he was pissed at the fact that she betrayed him. Honestly, I don't really understand what is going on here, but based on my years of experience when it comes to Manhwa, the guy was poisoned by the girl he loved and trusts the most. He was first poisoned through the spilled blue liquid on the ground. That liquid should contain something that disperse energy for a short period of time, making him unable to use his strength, and the girl injected the final poison by piercing his chest before she died. The guy then coughed out blood. Since the poison had finally taken effect, someone then approached him from behind, and he said, "Aren't you one of the top 10 masters in the martial world?" As soon as the poison guy saw the man, he immediately charged out to attack him angrily. But the poison guy was already weak because of the poison in his body. As a result of that poison, multiple holes appeared in his body, which caused blood to be gushing out from his body. As if multiple holes were dug into his body, and so his attack was ineffective. He was then taken down in one strike by the man. The man said to him, "A genius who has reached the pinnacle of poison mastery, welcome to the land where poison overflows." Some unknown time later, a group of martial artists were walking in a line, while Taeyong was riding on a horse. The martial artists were already sweating and getting tired. Even Cheon was sweating all over due to the scorching sun. He was like, so this irritating environment is the source from which the Sichuan Tong clan extracts poison. No wonder even insects and frogs would get poisoned. He added, saying, even though their mission is to mediate the conflict, but it feels like they'll be steamed to death before they even meet those man-tribe folks. He then decided to ask Sam something. But Sam told him not to talk to him because even opening his mouth is exhausting. But Cheol didn't care either. He then whispered at Sam's ear. He asked him if it is true that the Taeyong martial artist has reached Hwakyung. Just so you guys know, the formal name for Hwakyung is Jowakyung. It is the first stage becoming an absolute master. Hwakyung means Flower Sutra, while Jowakyung means Harmony Sutra. So we would be using Harmony instead of Hwakyung. Sam then asked him why does he care about it. Cheol was like, I mean, isn't it odd? Taeyong is not even one of the top 10 masters, like my grandfather, popularly known as the Absolute Sword Master. But he became the captain of the Special Forces. But Sam said to him while killing the fly around him, the fact that Taeyong single-handedly suppressed the rebellion of the Jagal clan. And considering that a remarkable figure who absorbed the blood demon essence chose him as a master, must mean he proved himself to be worthy of his position. Cheol was like, now that you mentioned it, it makes sense, so it's true that he reached Harmony, but to his surprise Sam was nowhere to be found. Sam approached Kang. He excitedly told Kang that he is Jong Sam from the Beggar's Sect. So he stretched his hand to greet him. Kang looked at his hand suspiciously, but he decided to greet him. Sam then smirked, and as soon as he shook Kang's hand, he activated his energy to test Kang's strength. But Kang, who realized what he was up to, decided to play along by activating his own energy. Sam was like, what the heck is this grip strength of his? He was shaking all over, while saying to himself that, it's not just Kang grip strength that is the problem. An overwhelming force is surging through his entire body from his hand. So he immediately pulled away his hand since he was no match for Kang. He said to Kang while massaging his hand, come on dude, if you can't control your strength, how will you master martial arts properly? You seem like the type who'd break a spoon while eating. He then said, anyway, did you hear anything about the mission from Master Taeyong? Kang replied, actually I was about to ask you that, Kang added saying. The information network of the Beggar's Sect is famous across all of Miram. Some even say that the Beggar's Sect truly rules Muram. But Sam told him to stop saying nonsense. Maybe if it was the Shaolin or Wudang, they would deserve to be called the sect that rules Muram, but not the Beggar's Sect. Kang said to him, no one can conquer the word with brute force alone since information is the most crucial key to handling crises. Besides, aren't you a high-ranking master, one of the 6 elders of the Beggar's Sect? Sam asked him how did he know about him being an elder. He said to himself that somehow, it seems like Kang Information Network is better than his. He then decided to reveal a bit of heavenly secrets just because he is Master Taeyong's prized disciple. But Kang said to him through telepathy, let's get straight to the point. Sam realized that Kang wasn't the kind to beat around the bush, so he decided to start explaining from the important part. He told Kang that the genius martial artist of the Sichuan Tong clan, Tong Suk Gun, naturally participated in the Great War. At that time, aside from the heavenly demon, the one who put the Martial Alliance's forces in a difficult position was none other than Poison Demon, the epitome of poison. But at that time, the one who saved the Alliance was the 4 heavenly poisons Tang Suk Gun. He had deep knowledge in venom arts, which made him exceptionally skilled in curing poisons as well. So many believed Suk Gun ultimately decided the outcome of the Great War. So it's no surprise that he's among the top 10 martial artists. However, geniuses who focus intensely on one thing often go mad. And it's said that he caused many strange incidents because of his eccentric personality. Kang was like, what about now, does he still cause any incident? But Sam told him with a pale face that he has gone missing. Let's go back to what happened last night in the Sichuan Tong clan. Taeyong was at a meeting together with the elders of Tong clan, and they were talking about the disappearance of Tong Suk Gun. Taeyong, who was surprised, had no idea what they meant by Suk Gun disappeared. So he told them to explain, but they told him that it's a bit embarrassing to explain. Taeyong said to them, Suk Gun disappearance wasn't mentioned in the report, so why are you telling me this now? One of the two elders told him that they were concerned that if they honestly revealed Tang Sukgun's absence, the alliance might not send their special forces. There was silence in the room for a moment. Taeyong then said to the man, "Don't tell me you expelled Sukgun." The man panically replied, "Does that even make sense? Sukgun is well known among 10 great masters, so how could we possibly expel him? Although there were indeed attempts to do so, but they were suppressed." After that, perhaps due to guilt for killing his own kin, Sukgun resigned from his position and has been reclusive since, so knowing that he's not around, the Man family continues to make a fuss. Back to the present, Taeyong was saying to himself after remembering the meeting they had last night. With the disappearance of Sukgun, one of the 10 great masters, the balance of power with Man family has been disrupted. This means that they'll need to handle the same level of strength that Tang Sukgun had. Suddenly, he noticed something strange from his horse, and before he knew what was happening, the horse coughed out blood through its mouth and eyes, and it died. Taeyong immediately used his energy to regain his balance, but to his surprise he noticed that the area was engulfed with poison, so he shouted out to his underlings that they'd been attacked by poison. He then activated his energy on his palm, and with just a single clap he was able to disperse the poison in the area, so he immediately asked everyone if they're safe. One of the Tang clan personnels told Taeyong that the poison isn't as strong as he expected, so it's expected that he is resistant to such level of poison. Taeyong also knew that he is resistant, but he decided to be more careful, to avoid story that touches the heart. He suddenly became worried. He said to himself that although the vanguard is all occupied by the sex elite guards, but the rear guard is only made up of the special unit's secondary forces. He then instructed the elite guards to check the rear guard immediately, but when they turned around to check the rear guard, they couldn't find anyone, so they panically told Taeyong that the rear guard is nowhere to be seen. Taeyong was really worried because what just happened now is a really big disaster. Somewhere in a forest, Kang and Sam were still having their conversation, not knowing that they had been separated from the others. Sam was telling Kang that such a prominent figure like Sukgun seems to have a fatal weakness for women. Kang smirked while saying that such term like fatal weakness for women is often covered up with the term heroic romanticism, but Sam told him that the problem is that he wasn't just someone who liked women. Rather, he was a complete fool who didn't know how to speak to women properly. He then said to Kang, "Think about it. How could a person who spent his life locked away, dissecting poisonous frogs and insects, ever woo a woman? There were even rumors that his stench was worse than that of beggars." Kang suddenly told him to stop. He looked around. He said to himself with a worried look that he got so caught up in the conversation that he didn't notice the signs. He then told Sam that they are completely surrounded. At first, Sam had no idea what Kang was talking about, but after focusing his senses he later understood what he was saying. Kang then told him that over there something amazing has appeared. At the same time, Taeyong was surrounded by the people from Man tribe. One of the tribe members told Taeyong that he can't enter from here on out. Taeyong asked him what kind of bullshit he is talking about. The place has been under the control of the Tang family for a long time. The tribe man asked Taeyong if he is from the Tang family. Taeyong replied. He told the tribe man that he is Taeyong, an officer from the special unit of the Martial Alliance. He had been sent to mediate the conflict here, so he wished to speak with their leader. But the man told him that the great chief does not wish to negotiate. Taeyong was quite pissed at the damn pests who were always interfering. He then angrily activated his energy. The stare from his eyes, and the energy he was emitting at that moment was able to stun the tribesmen. One of the tribesmen found Taeyong's skill to be amazing since he was able to take down his opponent with just a gaze. Taeyong then asked them if they came all the way from their tribe just to bicker with a mere subordinate like him. He then told them to prepare to risk their life if they want to keep blocking their path. But despite the fact that Taeyong was suppressing the tribemen, one of them told Taeyong with a very strong resolve that whether it's the Tang family or the Martial Alliance, they won't be able to do anything on their land. But before he could finish his words, Taeyong angrily charged out and he grabbed the guy by his neck and slammed him to the tree, shattering the tree into multiple pieces. The other tribesmen immediately rushed to attack him. Taeyong activated his energy to counterattack. He then grabbed the guy who was flying to God knows where by the leg, and bang, he slammed him on the floor. At the same time, one of the rearguard elites were happy at the fact that they have a real expert with them. Two of the tribesmen rushed to attack Taeyong from behind, but Taeyong grabbed them by the neck, rendering them useless and unable to move, but suddenly, an attack was shot directly at him. So he jumped out of the way to escape the attack, which caused quite the explosion upon impact with the ground. Sam then asked Kang what the hell just happened. Kang told him that it seems like they finally arrived. Sam worriedly told Kang that it seems like something is happening on the front line. He then said, "Shouldn't we hurry and join them?" But Kang told him that there is no way they can join them because they are surrounded right now. Sam added with vigor, "Then we need to break through the encirclement." Kang told him that, although they are surrounded, but they're not attacking, that means that they don't want them to interfere. They probably just want to deal with the Tang family, so he told Sam that they should wait for now, and Master Taeyong might find a way to solve the situation. Sam was happy since Taeyong is a high-level expert who has reached the state of harmony, so there's nothing to worry about. But Kang said to him, "Are you sure he's at the harmony state?" He then said to himself that if Taeyong can properly use what he have taught him, then he would be able to survive even if he's not at the harmony state. At the same time, at the place where Taeyong was, the person who shot the attack earlier was the great chief of the tribesmen who just arrived on site. The chief then walked towards Taeyong. His steps alone was making the ground tremble. Taeyong asked the chief if he's finally willing to talk, but the chief told him to step back because they will not concede the land. Taeyong was like, "Is there any need to be so rigid? We're just trying to get along." The chief then said to Taeyong that there was someone who came here in the past saying those same words. Using the excuse of researching poison, he defiled our sacred land. He killed innocent tribes and destroyed this land. Taeyong then asked him if the person he is talking about is from the Tang family. The chief replied yes. He can't just reconcile with such an enemy as if nothing happened because there is too much accumulated blood and hatred for that. He then told Taeyong to be careful that they are not taking revenge, so he should leave at once. Taeyong was quite speechless. He said to himself that what is the Tang family really doing here? He told the chief that he understand his position, but with that attitude of his they'll only keep spilling each other's blood. His words really pissed the chief off, so the chief then moved at a very high speed, and he appeared in front of Taeyong with an attack, but Taeyong blocked the attack with his hand. He excitedly said to the chief that he had been waiting for this moment, because negotiation is much easier when fighting. Taeyong then launched a swift punch at the chief, and bang, there was a collision, but for a moment no one knew who won the fight, but to Taeyong's surprise, the chief blocked his attack with just one hand. The chief was like, "You're not in the state of harmony based on the strength you've displayed." At that moment Taeyong was sweating in fear. He then retracted his hand and he stepped back immediately. Taeyong said to the chief, "How did you know that I am not at the harmony state?" The chief replied, "I have met one, a high-level expert in the state of harmony, and I have even killed one," and so, within the blink of an eye, he appeared behind Taeyong. Taeyong immediately used his elbow to launch an attack, swiftly turned around to attack the chief, but with just a single palm the chief sent Taeyong flying, making him cough out a huge amount of blood in the process. Breaking multiple trees with his back due to his falling force, and bang, he finally stopped after landing on a tree. Taeyong, with his big stature and muscles, was rendered to waste. He was shaking all over due to the pain. He then used all his strength to stand up. He couldn't believe that the chief killed a high-level expert in the state of harmony, since there is no way that someone who is trained in such a remote place defeat a high-level expert in the state of harmony. Taeyong then went on his knees since he no longer got the strength to stand. At the same time, Jichong was playing with a frog somewhere within the forest, until she felt a sudden tremor. Even Sam felt the ground shaking, but when he turned around to talk about it to Kang, he realized that Kang wasn't there. Kang was running at an incredible speed towards where Taeyong was. He said to himself that the Men tribe might be too much for Taeyong to handle. He then increased his vision range to see what is happening. At the same time, the chief told Taeyong that he'd use him as a warning so that others won't come to their land again, and as he was about to strike Taeyong, he felt the presence of someone looking him from the forest. So he immediately turned around to see who it was. He could feel that the person was strong, so with a worried look on his face, he wondered who the person was. He never expected there would be a master hiding in the background. Without so much of a thought, he told his tribesmen that they're retreating. He then told Taeyong that he's letting him leave today, but he should remember clearly that today he didn't use the 1,000 poisons. The Tang clan members were in shock as soon as he mentioned the word 1,000 poison. Kang also heard what he said, so he wondered what the hell is 1,000 poisons. Nighttime, at another scene inside a house, Taeyong coughed out blood while being treated by Kang. Kang told him that his internal organs are completely damaged. It's fortunate that he have the proper antidotes to cure the poison of the Sichuan Tang clan. Taeyong told Kang that there's no use treating him since he would just lose again if he was to fight the chief. Kang mockingly asked him if he is angry. Taeyong replied angrily that if it weren't for the restrictions placed by you I would have won, but Kang told him that he would still have lost with or without restrictions. Taeyong knew that he would be unable to defeat the chief, because the chief said he had killed a high-level expert in the state of harmony. He then asked Kang if that expert could be perhaps Suk-gun. Kang replied, "It's highly likely if the great chief wasn't bluffing." Taeyong then said, "The chief mentioned having the 1,000 poisons of the 4 deadly poisons earlier. If he really has the poison, then he killed Tang Suk-gun to acquire the 1,000 poisons." Kang was like, "If that's true, then it's a serious problem." Taeyong was angry at the fact that the Tang clan are still hiding something, so he became furious and he was ready to deal with them immediately. But he suddenly felt a sharp pain all over his body. Kang told him that with that body of his, he won't make it 10 steps before dying. He then told him to hold on. He placed his hands on Taeyong's back to scan some areas. He told Taeyong that right now an emergency treatment is necessary. At another scene, in the Sichuan Tang clan, one of the elders of the clan couldn't believe that Tang Suk-gun is dead after hearing the news. He lashed out saying that there is no way one of the top 10 experts would lose to a mere tribal chief in the outskirts, so it doesn't make sense, so he told Taeyong that the chief is probably bluffing. Taeyong said to himself, and he was like, ugh. At times like this guy really need to shut his mouth up. He told the elder that the great chief talked about the 1,000 poisons, and he spoke as if he possessed the 1,000 poisons. The man told him in a low tune that it must be an exaggeration as well, but Taeyong furiously slammed the table. He asked them, "Where the heck is the 10,000 poison then?" But the 2 men were unable to reply. Taeyong told them furiously that since the great chief mentioned it, it's clear that it exists, and if he doesn't have it, then it must be with the Tang clan, so he asked them to show him the poison. The man couldn't reply at first while sweating all over. He asked Taeyong what he intended to do with the poison. Taeyong replied, "Unfortunately, that's the only way to deal with the great chief." The 2 men's face immediately went pale. At the same time, Kang was watching them through the roof undetected. He said to himself that if the 1,000 poisons are in the Tang clan, then what about the 1,000 poisons the great chief has? Which one is real or fake? While he was on the roof, Jishong saw him standing there. She was comparing the standing image of Kang with that of the person that rescued her from Huigon. Kang then jumped down from the roof while dancing in the moon, and he swiftly landed on the ground, but he never expected to see Jichong. He was hoping that the Tang elders wouldn't notice that he used the celestial eavesdropping technique to spy on them. He then told Jishong to allow him pass through, but as he was leaving, she stopped him. She said to him, "You must be Officer Taeyong's disciple." She then addressed herself as Yi Jichong of Hwasan. Kang told her that he have heard her name before, and she's known to be Hwasan Rising Star. But she told Kang that such a title is too grand for her. Kang told her not to belittle herself since she killed the head of the Changjiang waterway, and even defeated the top disciple of the Shadow Master Huigon. So with such achievements, she certainly deserved the reputation. But she told him that the results of the martial competition cannot be considered a true reflection of her abilities. She then said to him, "Didn't you spar with Madan before me?" Kang immediately swallowed his saliva. He shyly told her that it was just a warm-up. She added, "Besides, she was almost killed by Shadow Master Huigon, and she barely survived with someone's help, so no matter how much they praise her as the future of Hwasun, her martial skills is still at a pitiful level." Kang looked at her without saying anything for a moment. He said to her, "It might be presumptuous of me, but he would like to offer her a piece of advice." He told her that her plum blossom swordmanship has undoubtedly reached a significant level. However, it feels like she have built a solid fortress, becoming rigid and unable to move freely. And it was as a result of her following her master's teachings too faithfully. She was amazed at his accurate deduction. She then remembered when she told her master to please demonstrate once again the technique he just performed, since she haven't perfected it yet. But her master told her that only someone that is trying to become a puppet would want to achieve perfect mastery. Kang then told her to unleash the plum blossom sword technique against him. She never expected him to teach her, but she decided to play along. She then activated her plum blossom swordmanship, and she charged out to attack with her sword pointing directly at Kang, but Kang dodged it with ease. He told her that she mustn't just watch while swinging her sword, but she must move while observing. Respond as she move, and not try to draw the plum blossoms. She should let them bloom naturally on their own. And so, he told her that what he have taught her is the essence of dynamic stillness, but their face almost touched one another while practicing, They both blushed, and they immediately turned around. Taeyong then decided to take his leave. He then jumped through the buildings. On his way he told her to keep improving. But when he left, Cheon was all alone, not understanding a single thing he just said. At another scene in the Men tribe, the great chief was meditating. He was wondering who really is the person that appeared earlier when he was about to kill Taeyong. He said to himself, could there really be such a high-level experts in their ranks? But he smirked because whoever it is, he definitely want to spar with them. Morning reached, the tribe chief and Taeyong were having a meeting inside a hut. The tribe chief has his own guards, same goes for Taeyong. Taeyong said to himself, that last time the great chief was so adamant, but he have no idea why he have come to the negotiation table now. So he wondered if the great chief was trying to build a friendly relationship. The tribe chief scanned around, but he couldn't find the high-level master that he detected earlier among their ranks. Their negotiation started. Taeyong told the chief that they are not here to conquer their land, rather the Tang family and the Myonghong sect want to properly divide the rights to the forest, but the great chief smirked. He told Taeyong that he doesn't have the leverage to negotiate with them. After he barely survived last battle, he then stood up and told Taeyong with vigor that their decision remained unchanged, so he should leave their land at once. Taeyong was pissed by his words. He immediately brought out something that seems like a gun, and he pointed it directly at the great chief. He told him that only if the situation changes. Until then, they have gained the leverage for negotiation. At the same time within the forest, Kang was swiftly moving through the pillars. He landed on a pillar, observing the resident located deep down. He smiled since he had finally found what he is looking for, but he suddenly saw an intense explosion some distance away from him. Back at the meeting tent, the chief asked Taeyong if he's just going to hold the gun like that, and if he keeps hesitating he won't even get a chance to use it. Taeyong wondered why the chief is so confident instead of being scared, or maybe he is relying on the deadly poison, although he was quite hesitant for a moment, but at this point of no return. He have no choice but to check for himself what exactly is giving the chief such level of confidence. He then shot the gun at the chief. Multiple needles were shot out from the gun at high speed, but the chief didn't dodge at all. He just stood there, took the needles head on, and they all penetrated into his body. Taeyong thought that he had succeeded since all the needles were able to pierce into his body, but to his surprise, the chief came out unscathed. The chief was really pissed and angry at the fact that he was trying to threaten him with something so useless, so he raged out. The energy that he was exuding at that moment was beyond intense. But while he was raging out, Taeyong instructed the people of Tang Clan to carry out the second plan, and so they shot out a flare gun into the sky, signaling their other allies, and anyone within the mountain can see it. Sam saw the signal flare. He then decided to carry out his part of the mission, so he walked towards the tribe's men, who were guarding the relic. Upon seeing Sam, they immediately asked him to identify himself, and they told him to leave at once while pointing their spear at him, since outsiders are not allowed to come into the sacred place. Sam murmured out loud, "It seems like there aren't many guards here." He smirked, since it looked like they have all headed towards the negotiation hall. He didn't just come alone. He came with quite the number of martial artists, and they were waiting behind him. The tribe's men were surprised to see such number of people, but the leader of their group shouted out that they should form a defensive formation to protect the sacred relics, and so the battle began. The monk, together with our waifu candidate and the handsome boy, were also part of the assault team, so they all charged out with vigor to take down the Manzu tribe people. Hello guys. There was a mistranslation in this manhwa, so from now on we would be calling the tribe people Manzu tribe, since that's the name of their tribe. Going back last night before Taeyong confronted the chief, inside a house, Taeyong was surprised when Kang told him that the celestial poison that the Tang sect has is probably not the real one. Kang explained, saying that Sukgun spent his whole life researching the celestial poison. If that's the case, he would have hidden the precious celestial poison in a place that can never be discovered even if he died. And even though they're from the same clan, it would be in a place that's absolutely unknown, so the possibility of the sect possessing the celestial poison is close to impossible. Taeyong angrily lashed out at the fact that the Tang people are lying to him again. Kang then told him that he must prepare the next measure to avoid any unforeseen event. Taeyong calmed down. He told Kang that in such situation where even the celestial poison can't be used, there's only one next measure left, which is for Kang to involve himself. But Kang refused to involve himself since he have other tasks to attend to. Taeyong was like, "Isn't it heartless for a disciple to let their master be in danger?" Kang told him to delay as much as possible until he returned. But Taeyong told him that he won't be able to hold his ground against the chief. What happened last time is already proof of that. So going against such a monster who is able to kill a top 10 martial artist is no different from a death sentence. Kang said to him with an evil smirk that this time would be different since he had made some preparations. But Taeyong had no idea what that so-called preparation was. Eventually it had something to do with Taeyong's body. Back to the present. The chief threw a punch at Taeyong. He also threw a leg strike after the punch. But Taeyong was able to dodge them all while smiling, unlike before, when he was unable to take not even a single punch from the chief. The chief also noticed the changes in Taeyong, since he is different from their last spar. In addition, he never expected Taeyong to recover so quickly from his previous battle injuries. Taeyong then threw a heavy punch directly at him, but he crossed his two hands to defend against the blow, and in the process he was pushed back due to the force from impact. At that moment, the chief said to himself that Taeyong's blows are as if they've reached the state of harmony, and so their battle stopped for a moment since it seems like their strength are on par with each other. Suddenly, one of the Manzu tribe member came running panically. He told the chief that the altar has been ambushed, and the sacred relic is in danger. The chief was shocked by the news, so he told all the tribe members on site to head to the altar immediately, and he would handle Taeyong and his underlings alone. The tribe members were worried that the chief would be in danger, but the chief told them that they'd only get in his way by staying here, so they should leave immediately, or else he would kill them himself. So they immediately decided to leave upon hearing the word death. The chief told Taeyong that it seems like they're underestimating them too much, but Taeyong confidently told him that the celestial poison would definitely be theirs, so it isn't a matter of underestimating. The chief smirked. He called Taeyong a naive fool. He said, "Why do you think I would keep the celestial poison in the altar?" His words really surprised Taeyong because if what he said is true, then all his plans and schemes are useless. Another scene, the guard that was outside a hidden house was knocked down by Kang. Kang entered the house, and he began going through the dried herbs. He picked one and smelled it. He then turned around to look at the books that were arranged on the shelf, so he started reading it, but to his surprise, it was Suk Gun's journal. Back at the sacred altar, the battle against the martial artist was quite intense. Cheon was having quite the difficult time since he was fighting against multiple Manzu tribe people. And he was almost ambushed unknowingly from behind, but the person that wanted to ambush him was taken down by Sam. Sam proudly told Cheon that there is no need to thank him because protecting each other is what they should do. But while he was talking, one of the tribe men came to ambush him from behind, although Cheon's warnings came too late. But luckily Jichong stopped the tribe man's spear attack, and she knocked him down with a kick directly on his face. She immediately told them to snap out of it and stop joking around because the situation has changed since the Manzu tribe's soldiers keep swarming in, and at the rate things are going they might get surrounded. But Sam confidently told them not to worry, because they have the pride of Shaolin on their side. With just a single swing of his hand, Yun was able to take down multiple Manzu tribe people, but it was far from over since they keep on swarming him. He said to himself that dealing with them is tough enough, so securing the relics might be impossible. At the same time, there seems to be a statue in the altar, and in the mouth of the statue, there is a glowing totem. Another scene outside the house where Kang infiltrated, the guard at the other side of the house noticed that something was wrong, so he went to check it out. His instinct was right since one of the guard was already taken down, so he rushed into the room, and he noticed that there was an intruder. He then shouted out to alert the other tribe members in the area. At the same time, Kang already left the house and he was running at full speed looking all worried. He said to himself that he never expected such discovery, and if the chief is that capable, then strengthening Taeyong's inner power might be meaningless, and just like Taeyong said, there is only one option left, which was for him to intervene. The chief strengthened his muscles. He forcefully shot out all the needles in his body, and those needles were redirected back at Taeyong and the Tang clan members. Taeyong worriedly shouted out for them to defend against it, although he was able to block the needles that were coming at full speed with triple the force from when it was shot. But the Tang clan members were unable to block it, so he worriedly told them to take the antidotes since the needles were all poisoned. They all immediately swallowed the antidotes. At the same time, Taeyong was breathing heavily after expending so much of his energy to block the attack. The chief told him that if the needles they shot at him contained the celestial poison, then the antidotes wouldn't have worked. So the celestial poison the Tang clan said to have is fake, since it's just a mixture of various poisons, nothing more. He became angry at the fact that they're tarnishing the name celestial poison, since it wasn't made to be used as an ordinary poison. Taeyong said, "You speak as if you know how to make the celestial poison." He lashed out at the chief, saying that the method to make the celestial poison is known only by Tang Suk-gun, and since he killed Suk-gun, then the method to create the celestial poison is lost forever. The chief laughed because Taeyong thinking are all wrong, and as soon as he removed his hat and placed it on the ground, there was an explosion in the area, with its smoke surrounding the vicinity, and the plants within that area withered immediately. At the same time, Taeyong bent down in pain since he was unable to block the explosion due to his slow defense. His body was shaking all over since the explosion itself was poison. So he immediately brought out the antidotes to take it, but he dropped the antidotes upon realizing that he was poisoned with the celestial poison. So the antidotes is useless. The poison was so lethal, which made him to bleed through his eyes, mouth, ears, and nose. The chief picked up the poison, he said. The antidotes was also made by Suk-gun, but he knows how to neutralize the antidotes, because he was once the one they called Suk-gun. Upon realizing what the chief said to be true, Taeyong laughed while in pain since it seems like they've all been fooled all along. No wonder he couldn't win against him. The chief then raised his hand, imbued it with energy to send Taeyong to the afterlife. At that moment, Taeyong said to himself that the difference between someone who has reached the harmony state and the one who hasn't is like heaven and earth, and in the world of martial arts, the lack of martial skills means death. He also knew that the blow from the chief would eventually take his life, so he already accepted his fate. The chief then struck Taeyong with technique called Poison Cannon, and bang, there was an impact. At first he thought he had successfully taken down Taeyong, since there is no way he could have blocked the attack. But to his surprise, our big guy arrived on time, and used his body to block the attack, causing his clothes to be damaged, nothing more. Kang said to Taeyong with a smile, "You've worked hard, master." The chief was shocked to see that Kang was able to endure his poison, and boom, there was a sudden dust explosion that covered the vicinity, and it was caused by Kang. Kang carried the weak Taeyong to rest on a tree. He performed an acupuncture technique which would delay the spread of the poison as much as possible, so Taeyong probably won't be able to move for now. Taeyong asked him if the acupuncture he performed would be enough. Kang replied, saying that if the poison in his body is the celestial poison, then detoxification would be impossible. But luckily, it doesn't seem like it was the celestial poison, although the poison in his body is quite potent. Taeyong said, "If the poison in my body is not the celestial poison, then did you secure the real celestial poison?" Kang replied, "No, there was no celestial poison in the place he went to. Then it must be at the altar." Taeyong was like, "Then you should have taken the poison from the altar," but Kang told him that he can't just leave him to die. Taeyong furiously called him a fool for coming to save him instead of securing the celestial poison, but Kang told him that the poison is probably not at the altar either, because keeping the celestial poison on oneself is the safest option, especially for a grandmaster like the chief since his body is the strongest fortress. Kang then lifted Taeyong up and he threw him on the tree branch. With his back lying on the tree and his stomach facing upward, he told Taeyong that staying still would help slow the spread of the poison, and it's also a good spot to watch the show. But as Kang was about to leave for battle, Taeyong told him that there is something he must know, and that something is that the Grand Chief is Suk-gun, one of the top 10 martial artists. Kang smiled since he knew already when he read Suk-gun's journal. He then went to confront the chief. The chief said, "It's you. You're the master that was observing me during the last battle." Kang was like, "I never expected you to notice, I apologize for that." Taeyong was also surprised that he was at the scene at that time. Now he finally understood why the chief left the battle in a hurry during their first encounter, and now the boss battle began. The chief spread out his hands. Kang had no idea what he was about to do, but to his surprise, the chief's hand was covered in a dense fog of poison. He then said to Kang, "I should go all out from the beginning since that would have been the proper respect for a grandmaster like yourself," and so he charged out to attack Kang. He used his poisoned hands to attack Kang, but Kang dodged it with ease. The chief went for another strike, with the intention to block Kang's escape path. Yet Kang was still able to swiftly dodge all his multiple strikes without being hit. Not even his clothes were damaged. The chief was really pissed that Kang keeps running instead of fighting him, but Kang doesn't care about him, and he kept on dodging his attacks. He then said to the chief, "Why did you betray the Tang clan? You even went as far as to fake your own death." His word kinda triggered the chief, and after the last attack from him, they both distanced themselves. The The chief told Kang that the 10 great masters of Sichuan's Tang clan, Sukgun, is indeed dead, because he no longer intend to live under the filthy name of the Tang clan, but Kang said to him, "Be honest. You left because of revenge. You wanted to avenge her, didn't you?" Kang was surprised by his words, but it also triggered him in the process. He angrily told Kang not to say something that he didn't know. He furiously let out his anger on a tree, and he prepared to activate a technique by rotating his hands. The pressure from the technique was able to shatter the trees around him. Kang said to himself that it seems like the chief is already getting too emotional. The chief finished performing his techniques, but as he was about to attack Kang clenched his fist tightly. And bang! He punched the shit out of the chief's face, but the chief could only scratch Kang's body. Going back memory lane, at that time when Sukgun was quite young, he was by the riverside trying to catch a frog, but the frog escaped into the river. He was like, damn it, even a village kid could do it better than me. While he was busy blaming himself, a girl approached him. She said to him, "What are you doing over there? You don't seem to be someone from around here." So she guessed that he should be from the Tang clan. She approached him and said, "This is a land of satisfaction. If you stay any longer, it will be dangerous." Sukgun stood up and looked her into the eyes. He was like, it's not dangerous for me. It's for them, because just hearing my name would make them run away with their tails between their legs." The girl noticed that he is looking for the red frog, so she asked him if he's trying to make some poison darts with it, but Sukgun proudly told her that poison darts is too trivial, and what he's trying to create is the strongest poison in the world. But he stopped his speech midway. He wondered why he is talking so much. His damn bravado always kicks in whenever he see a woman. The girl, seeing that he's deep into poison, told him that she happens to know a bit about poison. She then opened a bottle containing poison. Sukgun was surprised since it was mython poison based on its smell, but he told her that he's not scared of the mython poison since his body is already immune to all poisons. He said to himself while blushing that he's already boasting again, and it seems like he's falling for the girl. The girl said to him, "I know, this poison won't be able to harm you, because you are Tang Sukgun, the poison master." What she said came as a surprise to him, so he surprisingly asked her if she really knows him. She replied saying that she knows him very well, and she also know that he's trying to create the celestial poison, and so she took him to the poisonous spring. He was so surprised to be there because he's been searching for it for a very long time. He asked her why is she revealing the spring to him, since it's a valuable resources for the Manzu people. She looked at him and said, "That's right, our Manzu have been fighting the Sichuan Tang clan for ages, so for us, the poisonous spring is the only means to counter the Tang clan. And if a top master like you complete your ultimate poison using the poisonous spring, then the Manzu people won't stand a chance against it." If that's the case, Sukgun asked her, why is she now showing it to him when she knows the consequences of doing so? She replied saying that she's telling him about it because she knew that he don't care about the Sichuan Tang clan. They looked at each other for a moment without saying anything. She then said, "I know how deep your hatred for the Tang clan was. Your brother struck first because he feared you would threaten his power, of course. Your brother's plan to kill you failed, and the rebellion was quickly suppressed." Sukgun told her that she's right. He never cared about being the head of the Tang clan. He was trying to step down and live quietly. But he never thought his own blood would try to kill him despite not having the intentions to do so, so he left the clan and went into hiding. He grew sick of the Tang clan's name, and all he wanted after going in hiding was to research the strongest poison. She said to him, "So complete the celestial poison." But he must share its secret with her because if the Tang clan and Manzu both hold the poison, neither would be able to threaten the other. Sukgun looked at her for a moment. He told her that she sounded like a politician since she's trying to propose political peace through strategic balance. She was like, "Well, I am in such a position because my father is the Grand Chief of the Manzu tribe." Sukgun was moved by her words, but he told her that he have a condition in order for him to work with them, which was for her to marry him. They held hands together while enjoying the moment, but she was saying to herself, how stupid is he to be proposing when they haven't even known each other for half a day? Although she have heard he have a weakness for women, but his weakness is way beyond repair since he fell for her so easily, and so that's how it all began. Back to the present, Sukgun finished explaining everything to Kang while his head was punched into the tree. Kang never expected the master of poison to believe everything the Manzu tribe girl said, nor could he believe that the master immune to all poisons would fall so easily for a woman's temptation, and after losing her. He wondered if it was despair that changed him. Suk-gun told Kang that she loved him, but Kang sarcastically said to him, "I think you were being used." But Suk-gun raged out angrily and he shouted furiously, telling Kang to shut up. And he won't forgive him for insulting her, since she was purer and more beautiful than anyone in this world. Her pure soul was like a ray of light in this corrupted world. Kang was like, "Ugh, this man is beyond repair." Suk-gun pointed his finger at Kang, and he told him that he would pay for insulting his beloved, but Kang said, "Threatening me like that won't scare me." Suk-gun laughed. He told Kang that he might be calm, but now that he's in his grasp, his life won't last much longer. Kang noticed that what was giving him so much confidence was because of the scratch he landed on his arm earlier, but Kang pulled down his clothes and he was like, It doesn't hurt that much though." Suk-gun couldn't believe his eyes. He never expected Kang to be fine after being scratched by the poisonous river. So he wondered if such a young man has really mastered immunity to all poisons. He said to Kang, "Just as I expected, you're an incredible master. Honestly, I can't even be sure if I can win against you." Kang thanked him for the compliment, but Suk-gun told him to shut up since he wasn't complimenting a guy like him, but he'd be a perfect opponent to test the celestial poison. Kang was happy since he would be finally using the celestial poison, but to his surprise, Suk-gun tore his hand open. Kang smiled because he never expected him to store the celestial poison inside his own body. Suk-gun fully brought out all the celestial poison, and it has a really terrifying dark aura, he said with vigor. "The poison is my lifetime research, and the power of love completed it." But his words sound so cringe to Kang's ear. He jumped up so high and he shot the so-called strongest poison at Kang, but Kang confidently stood his ground to withstand the poison. Back at the scene we all forgot, Sam and the others were still fighting against the Manzu tribe people, and they finally got to the top of the relic. But the monk told them that there's no way out even if they secure the relic. Cheon added, saying that it seems like the disciple of the Sword King is already dead, or maybe he ran away, but Jishong told him that it's not possible. Suddenly, they felt a sudden tremor, but they had no idea what caused it. Jishong then told Sam to hurry and take the relic. Sam pulled it out without any delay, and he raised it up, telling them all that he had secured the relic. And so, all the Manzu tribe people dropped their weapons and went on their knees. Chul was surprised, so he was like, "Are you guys surrendering just because we took one relic?" Sam told him that it must mean a lot to them. But the monk told Sam that he think they're bowing for another reason, and it should have something to do with the place that the attack came from. After Suk-gun unleashed the celestial poison, many trees in the vicinity withered and animals died in an instant, decaying their flesh and leaving behind only their bones. But the one who unleashed the poison ended up losing the fight because Kang defended against the poison and came out unscathed. Kang walked towards Suk-gun. He told Suk-gun that the celestial poison has such a tremendous power, and it wasn't just an empty name since it's definitely worthy of the name celestial. Suk-gun was like, "Amazing. My final move with all my strength was blocked so easily," which proved that the era of the top 10 masters are over and the younger generations would be taking over. At last, finally we have escaped this arc since the author really dragged the story so much, and now in the prison of the Sichuan Tang clan. Suk-gun was placed in the Tang clan's prison. Taeyong, who seems to have recovered from the poison, came to see Suk-gun together with Kang. Kang touched the cell bars. He asked Suk-gun for the reason why he isn't escaping since the bar is so weak and he can break it anytime he wants, or is he perhaps atoning for betraying his clan? Suk-gun was like, the one betrayed was me. Besides, it's the Sichuan Tang clan that should pay for her death. If that's the case, Kang asked him why doesn't he do something about it then, but Suk-gun told Kang that he can't do anything because he lost to him, so now he's just waiting for Kang's judgment. But Kang smiled, and he said to him with confidence, "What if I ask you to become my subordinate?" Suk-gun replied, "I'd rather die than suffer such humiliation." Kang then said, "How about becoming an ally?" Suk-gun was surprised by the word ally, but he was unable to give a response. Kang decided to give him some time to think about it, but before that, he told Suk-gun that there's something he wanted to know. He then sat down on the ground with his legs crossed. He asked Suk-gun to tell him about what happened on the day his lover died. Suk-gun was surprised when Kang told him he had read his journal. Speechless for a moment, they both began blushing since the journal's content was all about love. With a blush on his face, Suk-gun remarked that everything was just as it was written in the journal. Following her suggestion, he used poisonous spring and finally completed the celestial poison, but the Tang family discovered it. The Tang family had been watching his every move since he entered the forest, and as soon as the celestial poison was completed, they sent the Iron Squad. At that time, she happened to be alone. Sukun told Kang that she tried to protect the celestial poison but ended up poisoned by it. Since the celestial poison is the most powerful poison and very difficult to handle, anyone other than Sukun who tries to tamper with it will inevitably suffer. While Sukun explained, Taeyong thought to himself, calling Sukun a fool for not realizing she was actually trying to steal the poison. Of all people, he never expected Kang, who thinks he's clever, to sit there and believe everything Sukun was saying. With a sad expression, Sukun continued his story. After holding her corpse, let's call her Wu Yanxi, he went to the clan head with Yanxi's body in his arms. He placed her down, bowed, and as tears dripped down his face, asked the clan head to please allow him to avenge Yanxi. The clan head was dumbfounded by his request. And just like that, for the sake of revenge, Sukun decided to use the Manzu tribe. Since the Tong family had oppressed the Manzu so severely, he thought that if they were destroyed by the tribe, it would be the ultimate form of revenge. As Sukun spoke, a psychotic expression filled his face, which even Kang found disturbing. Sukun then laughed freakishly as he continued his narrative, explaining how the clan head introduced him to the Manzu tribe as the hero who killed the Tang army, and then passed the clan head position to him. As the new head of the clan, Sukun taught the Manzu poison-making techniques and martial arts. He planned to use the Special Forces mission as a pretext to strike the Tang family, but he never anticipated facing a monster like Kang. Sukun then asked Kang what would happen if he accepted the offer to become an ally. In a commanding tone, Kang replied that he couldn't allow Sukun's revenge. Sukun agreed, saying that revenge was now pointless to him after his first loss to Kang. Kang added another condition, that Sukun could no longer live as a member of the Tang's army. Sukun replied that it was exactly what he wanted. With that, Kang had laid out all his conditions. Taeyong was surprised that Kang accepted Sukun without restrictions, unlike himself, who was heavily restricted. Sukun then told Kang that he had a condition of his own. Kang listened intently as the writer left us in suspense. In another scene, some men packed their bags as Taeyong told the Tang clan head something that immediately changed his expression, after which Taeyong bid the clan head farewell. In yet another scene, Kang and Taeyong discussed Sukun's condition, which was a non-regression pact between the Tong family and the Manzu. As a sign of this pact, the leader of the Manzu would be held as a hostage by the Miram Alliance. Taeyong agreed, as the headquarters probably wouldn't object to these terms. Kang commented with a grin that this wasn't a bad first mission as a Special Forces officer. Though Taeyong agreed, he still held grudges against Sukun for nearly causing his death several times. Taeyong asked Kang if the truth about Yanxi should be revealed, as it was clear she approached Sukun with the intent to steal the celestial poison. Kang told Taeyong not to worry about it. Sukun likely knew to some extent, but he probably didn't want to tarnish his memories of her. He preferred to remember her as the woman who loved him, so Sukun built a memorial for Yanxi. Hours later, Taeyong told everyone they should move out. Returning to the past, just before Yanxi died from celestial poison, she scratched Sukun with the celestial poison on her hand to kill him, but she realized it didn't work against him, which was really disappointing. Sukun, on the other end, cursed his body for being easily swayed by a woman's temptation, even after putting so much effort into creating the celestial poison. But it seems the most powerful poison in existence couldn't penetrate his cursed body. As he cries, Yanxi whispered something into his ears, and so she died. Sukun felt disappointed, realizing she tried to protect the celestial poison. At the same time, Tong clan soldiers rushed over to stop the Manzu woman from taking it. To their surprise, they saw Sukun with her body, furious at them for causing her death, and he escaped by diving into the poison river. Hours later, outside the volcanic sect, 2 guards stood at the entrance when they saw a figure with scattered hair approach. One guard asked the figure what he wanted. The figure asked if Shin Wu was there. Angered by his audacity, the guard berated him for daring to speak the elder's name. Without another word, the figure unsheathed a sword engulfed in blue flames. The guards also unsheathed their swords, taking defensive stances and calling the figure an insolent fool. The figure activated his energy, and with a single slash, he cut the entrance building in half. At that moment, Jishong was practicing swordsmanship in front of her master on a cliff. Her master happily complimented her progress, noting the increased number of plum blossoms. She thanked him, humbly attributing her improvement to a fortuitous encounter with Taeyong, the disciple of the Celestial King. Her master thought for a moment, wondering if a shift was occurring in the martial world. Suddenly, they both felt a huge tremor caused by the figure, who had knocked out all the guards who tried to stop him. The master quickly arrived at the scene, asking the figure to reveal his identity. Recognizing him, the master was shocked. In another scene, at the Martial Alliance headquarters in Beijing, Alliance leader Lee Jong-sok read a letter. The letter was about an impending duel between Shin Woo, the first sword of the volcanic sect, and the sword demon. Sometime later, after news of the duel spread, a man entered Jong-sik's chamber, slamming the table in protest and questioning why they should ever accept the duel. Jong-sok replied, touching his flowers, that he didn't send a letter for permission since Shin Woo had already accepted the duel. This was simply a notification. Unable to argue further, the man remarked sadly that while there were rumors of the sword demon's death, his body was never found. Jong-sok agreed, saying that anyone who had faced the sword demon wouldn't believe such rumors. The man asked if Jong-sok thought Shin Woo could win, but Jong-sok didn't answer, as they couldn't know how strong the mad demon was now. Worried, the man brought up the great war between righteousness and the demonic cults, which had ended long ago, yet the mad demon remained trapped by old grudges. Jong-sok then mentioned that Shin Woo had requested an official certifier from the Martial Alliance, allowing them to intervene officially. Surprised, the man laughed, praising Jong-sok's cunning, which truly made him the strongest in the martial world. Jong-sok then questioned the man's use of cunning as an insult. The man asked who Jong-sok planned to send to intervene, still tending to his flowers. Jong-sok cryptically mentioned someone who had been performing well recently, which confused the man. In another scene, within a mountain range, Taeyoung, Kang, and Suk-gun walked along a forest path. Suk-gun remarked that the Alliance seemed to have a lot of trust in Taeyoung, appointing him as the certifier for the duel of the first sword of the volcanic sect. Mockingly, he told Taeyoung that it seemed like he had managed to hide the fact that he had almost died twice. Taeyoung couldn't reply, as it was a bitter truth. Kang added, though Taeyoung had almost died twice, his martial skills had improved since then, and even Suk-gun admitted it, complimenting Taeyoung's astonishing growth rate. Taeyoung looked back, telling Suk-gun, or rather the five poison master, to pick one, praise or mockery. Suk-gun questioned why Taeyoung was calling him the five poison master. Taeyoung explained that it would be his new title since he couldn't go around being called his real title while hiding his identity. Suk-gun thought for a moment, then agreed to being called the five poison master since he liked it. Taeyoung turned back, saying that since Suk-gun was officially an underling, he should be mindful of his conduct as a certifier elder. Suk-gun grinned slightly. Are you saying you've become the Martial Alliance's dog? That's not bad. If that's the case, then establishing a sect under the name of the Celestial King's Fist, with the Martial Alliance as a strong backing, wouldn't be a bad idea. Taeyoung, angered, punched his hand into a tree, saying that he had hated the Martial Alliance, the 10 great experts, and even the 9 great schools since he was a child. But now, their enemy was the sword demon. After all, he and Suk-gun had fought in the Great War of Righteousness and demonic cults to remove the common enemy of the demonic sect. He told Suk-gun that he of all people should know what kind of person the sword demon was. Suk-gun fell silent until they arrived at the volcanic sect, where they were welcomed by Ji-chong and other members of the sect. As she bowed, Ji-chong apologized for the elders and senior brothers not coming to greet them, explaining that they were preoccupied and she had come to escort them herself. Taeyoung told her not to worry about it, understanding the situation, and asked her to please lead them to the elder. As they entered the sect, Kang was surprised at the sorry state of it, and questioned how the volcanic sect had become this way. Ji-chong sadly commented that they were deeply ashamed. They had never imagined being defeated by just one person. Taeyoung then asked her to explain what happened that day. She recalled, remembering the day when she had been demonstrating her sword dance to the elder. The sect's emergency drum had been rung, and all the disciples rushed out in a hurry, surprised to see one man standing with a sword. Though they saw him as an enemy, they all charged to attack. But before their swords could land, the man performed a large area sword technique that easily took down the first batch of attackers. His eyes glowed red, and with a tap of his sword on the ground, he leaped upwards and landed back down. Another batch of soldiers rushed forward, surrounding him with their swords pointed at the sword demon. They moved swiftly, surrounding him from all angles, each performing a technique. The sword demon then told them again that he came to see Shin Woo. One man, stuttering, looked surprised and asked if the man was perhaps the sword demon. Shivers ran down the spines of the warriors as they heard the name Sword Demon. One of them questioned if he was talking about that sword demon from the great war between justice and evil. Confident, the man told the sword demon that he couldn't easily meet the best swordsman of Manhua. The sword demon countered, saying that it would only lead to unnecessary sacrifice if they didn't let him pass. But the man insisted on not letting the sword demon pass, saying that he had always wanted to face the famous sword demon, at least once. Though the sword demon agreed to fight him, he decided to clean up the surroundings first. Realizing his intent, the man immediately shouted, warning everyone to get back. But before they could flee, The sword demon performed a sword technique that pushed back all the low-ranking warriors, sending them flying, while the high-ranking ones held their ground. The sword demon complimented them for holding out well, though he didn't want to take them all down, as there wouldn't be anyone left to call for Shinwoo. The man, let's call him the Elder, called the sword demon an arrogant fool. Furious, they charged to attack him, telling him not to underestimate Manhua. What happened next was excruciating. Back to the present, Cheon added that though the Blue Sword Squad was dispatched and even the Elder stepped in, it wasn't enough to stop the sword demon. By the time she and her master arrived at the training ground, it was already over. When she arrived to meet the sword demon, he gave her a sharp stare, then asked Shinwoo if she was his daughter. Shinwoo replied, saying she's his disciple, a talent who will lead Manhua in the future. With a grin, the sword demon remarked, "It seems Manhua will continue its legacy after all, though he knew he wouldn't be able to continue his own." Shinwoo stuttered. "That's unfortunate." "Unfortunate, you say?" the sword demon replied, telling Shinwoo not to speak as if it didn't concern him. With an angry expression, he told Shinwoo he would return in a month, so they should end their long-standing fate on that day. Shinwoo replied, "Understood." The sword demon then left the scene at full speed. Zhishang, on the other hand, had no idea what kind of enmity existed between them. As they arrived at a hut above one of the 5 peaks of Mount Hua, Shinwoo welcomed them. He remarked that they must have had a rough journey, and as they exchanged pleasantries, Shinwoo thanked Taeyong. Taeyong had no idea why he was being thanked. Shinwoo explained, telling Taeyong he had heard his daughter had gained great enlightenment thanks to him. Taeyong still had no idea what he was talking about. Speechless, he looked at Chichong, then back at Kang. Shinwoo then congratulated Taeyong for reaching the flowering realm. Taeyong stuttered, unable to reply, as he looked at Suk-gun, who gave him a slight nod to go along with it. Shinwoo then told Taeyong with a stern expression that at this rate, Taeyong would end up as the hunting dog of the alliance. Taeyong reacted, telling Shinwoo to explain what he meant by that. Shinwoo told him to look at the person standing in front of him. At that moment, Taeyong understood what Shinwoo was talking about. Even a decade ago, Shinwoo had exuded such tremendous energy. But in the end, he couldn't become one of the top 10 masters. Taeyong wondered if that would be his fate as well. Night fell, and inside a building, Taeyong sat on a bed, saying to himself that the cursed old man was spouting nonsense. Suk-gun, on the opposite end, questioned why Taeyong was scowling like that. Kang replied that it was because he had heard the same comment twice already, the comment of being the Alliance's dog, and no less, he had heard it from his greatest rival. Kang then asked Suk-gun if he knew anything about the best swordsman of Mount Hua and the Sword Demon, or what happened during the Great War between justice and evil. Suk-gun replied they were in different battle zones, but he began sweating all over as Kang questioned if it wasn't because he was left out. Suk-gun stuttered, finally accepting the truth. He then explained, recalling the past. Near the end of the Great War, Shinwoo had annihilated an entire enemy village. Kang was surprised. If it truly was an enemy village and it happened during the war, then there shouldn't be a problem, Kang questioned. Suk-gun replied, "Yes, the battlefield is such a place where, when you see your comrades dying beside you, you can lose yourself and become a butcher." But that mission was one that Shinwoo had volunteered for. Kang was surprised to hear that the first sword of Mount Hua had committed a massacre. He remarked that he never expected such a noble person to have committed such deeds, but Suk-gun told him that Shinwoo's massacre had to be buried. Although he's not one of the top 10 masters, Shinwoo is a martial artist respected by everyone in the martial world. One could even say Shinwoo's support is based on his reputation. If that slaughter were to become known, the fall of the Mount Hua sect would be inevitable. Kang thought that even if rumors spread, no one would believe them, but he realized that might not be the case if there was a witness. Suk-gun told him he was right. At the same time, they both looked at Taeyong. Speechless for a moment, Taeyong handed Kang a letter, which contained the order he received from the Martial Alliance before setting off. Kang read it, and Taeyong then asked Kang if he was going to help, but Kang didn't give an instant reply. The scene then shifts to a cave, located in a certain mountain. Inside that cave was the Sword Demon, meditating. He recalled a memory of a certain village. As he levitated, a child held his hand. Surprised, he looked at the child, and as they walked forward, he came across a woman, which made him let out a gentle smile. But it was all an illusion, a lingering memory of the past before the village was burned to ashes. The scene always traumatized him, especially knowing that Shinwoo, the mastermind behind the village massacre, was still alive. That's why the enmity between them could never be annulled, unless one of them died. Immediately, as the Sword Demon came back to his senses, a punch from nowhere was launched directly at his face. He swiftly adjusted to dodge the punch, which caused the attacker to slam his fist into the wall. Sword Demon immediately picked up his sword, seeing that the cave was about to collapse due to the punch. At the same time, standing on the opposite side of the cave were Kang and Suk-gun, watching the ongoing battle. The two immediately charged out of the collapsing cave. Sword Demon questioned the attacker, who was Taeyong, asking him to identify himself. Taeyong replied with a grin, "It seems you're someone whose life would be problematic if you don't die," then charged towards the Sword Demon, landing a heavy blow that sent him flying to the ground at an astonishing speed. But the Sword Demon was unarmed. He controlled his fall by piercing his sword into the ground, and as Taeyong charged towards him again, he saw the energy flow on Taeyong's fist. The Sword Demon deduced that Taeyong wasn't from Manhwa, and as he dodged the punch, he wondered if Taeyong had learned martial arts from Shaolin. But upon observing the punch more closely, he realized it was different, more flexible and creative than Shaolin. While parrying Taeyong's attacks, he wondered when such martial arts had appeared in the martial world. On the opposite side, Kang asked Suk-gun what he thought of the battle. Did he think Taeyong had reached the level of Hwajing, the state of transcending mastery? Suk-gun thought for a moment, then replied that Taeyong was certainly stronger than last time. Kang told him to be a bit more generous. Even he acknowledged Taeyong, though it didn't mean he had surpassed the elders. Suk-gun then boastfully told Kang that he reached Hwajing 20 years faster than Taeyong, but that the Sword Demon was not someone Taeyong could defeat just by reaching Hwajing. Kang didn't understand what he meant by that. Back at the battleground, as Taeyong was about to land a punch, the Sword Demon let out a subtle yet dangerous smile, then activated his energy on his sword and swiftly slashed at Taeyong. Taeyong, still looking at the Sword Demon, reacted without knowing. In that moment, he realized he had just escaped death since he didn't even know a blade was coming. Sword Demon noticed that the person who saved Taeyong was observing the scene. He thought to himself that not only had he prepared a surprise attack, he had also prepared for defense. Taeyong then charged forward to attack, knowing he hadn't come to win fairly. Both of them activated their techniques. Bang! They clashed. Taeyong saw the beautiful yet dangerous technique the Sword Demon used, but he still used his fist to block it, though his hand had a few scratches, which he hadn't quite expected. Sword Demon then decided it was his time to attack, telling Taeyong to try and block it, and he swung his sword, sending multiple rays of sword energy toward Taeyong. Taeyong stood his ground and tried parrying the attack with his punch, but he realized it wasn't just an ordinary attack. He looked up, seeing the Sword Demon appear above him, so he activated the Changwang Army's dance technique and shot it at the Sword Demon, who countered it with his own technique. He didn't stop there and launched another series of attacks at Taeyong. Though Taeyong hadn't expected the attack, he nevertheless blocked it with his arms crossed, and the unblocked part of the attack managed to neatly cut down all the trees behind him. Kang remarked, "The Sword Demon is strong as expected." Suk-gun agreed, saying that just like his name suggests, the Sword Demon is the best in swordsmanship within the demonic sect. Even the Taeguk Sword God, one of the 10 great masters, couldn't defeat the Sword Demon during the Great War of Righteousness and Evil. Though the Sword Demon lost an arm, Taeyong would still have a difficult time against him. Kang told Suk-gun that Taeyong's martial arts only improve when faced with a tough opponent. That's how it has always been. Suk-gun deemed Kang a cruel bastard for not caring about his underling. Back at the fighting ground, Taeyong was bleeding from all over his body due to the Sword Demon's slashes. The Sword Demon then told Taeyong that his skill was enough to aim for his neck, but unfortunately that wasn't enough to kill him. He then told Taeyong to get lost if he wanted to live, as he wasn't interested in taking his life. Taeyong let out a hearty laugh, then said there would only be meaning to his life if there was someone to surpass, so he charged out to attack again. Though the Sword Demon was surprised by his resolve, he easily countered Taeyong, and it seemed like Taeyong was pushed away by someone. While Taeyong was helpless midair, Kang came and caught him, telling Taeyong that he's really in bad shape. Taeyong told Kang with a grin that it seems like only when he's in a bad state would Kang want to help. With a stern expression, Kang wondered why on earth the Martial Alliance gave Taeyong such a task. Suk-gun confronted the Sword Demon and was the one who pushed Taeyong away. The Sword Demon couldn't believe that, in a split second when he was about to attack Taeyong, Suk-gun pushed him away, escaping his sword aura. Though he didn't know who Suk-gun was, it seemed like a stronger foe had appeared. Suk-gun raised his hand and activated his poison palm, immediately charging towards the Sword Demon. The Sword Demon also brought out his sword and countered Suk-gun's attack. Suk-gun smirked, then forcefully pulled his hand away and struck the Sword Demon with his palm. But as the Sword Demon blocked the strike, Suk-gun activated the hidden weapon on his left hand and shot it at the Sword Demon. A rain of poisoned needles was shot at the Sword Demon, some grazing his face and other parts of his body. It was only when he saw that they were poisoned needles that he suspected Suk-gun was the poison master, but Suk-gun told him that the poison master was dead and that his body is the Emperor of Poisons, known as the Emperor of 5 Poisons. After bragging about his name, he launched another batch of hidden attacks, but the sword demon blocked them all, including the palm strike. Seeing that ordinary attacks wouldn't be able to harm the sword demon, Suk-gun slit his hand open to create a path for the celestial poison to emerge. Kang became worried as he realized what Suk-gun was up to. With a grin, Suk-gun told the sword demon that he had no choice but to give him a proper welcome, since his opponent was the renowned sword demon. But before he could fully gather the poison, a sword was shot at him at full speed, causing Suk-gun to quickly step back to evade the attack. Surprisingly, the person who threw the sword was Shinwoo. Shinwoo pulled out his sword, telling Suk-gun that he thought he was a guest and treated him as such, but wondered what rudeness he was now showing at his home. Suk-gun countered, saying not all of Manhua belongs to the Hua sect, and that he's merely doing what is his to do. If that's the case, Shinwoo pointed his sword at Suk-gun, making his guest right invalid. Suk-gun was also ready to fight him, but Kang reminded Suk-gun, his master, that they must treat Taeyong immediately. Suk-gun retracted his poison palm, then told Shinwoo that his stubbornness about sticking to principles could be a disaster for Manhua. But Shinwoo told him not to bother, since that would be his burden to bear. Suk-gun looked at Shinwoo, then immediately sent a sound transmission, telling Shinwoo that it seemed he planned to lose the duel on purpose. What he said surprised Shinwoo, since the deduction was correct. Kang then picked Taeyong up, and they all left the scene, leaving the two enemies to glare at each other. Some time later in a room, Taeyong was undergoing treatment from Suk-gun, with multiple needles placed in his body. Kang asked Suk-gun about Taeyong's condition, questioning if he would die or not. Suk-gun, in a low tone, said it's not right to leave someone in such a state. No matter how much it's for martial arts advancement, such actions are more than heartless. Kang snickered, saying he had gone through far worse many times, his master leaving him on the street without any treatment. Suk-gun remarked that it seems his master also taught him that twisted personality, but Kang countered, saying he didn't think Suk-gun was in any position to say such a thing, considering he tried to wipe out his own family. Suk-gun couldn't refute his claim, and just wished that only if Kang couldn't speak, it would be better. Suk-gun was surprised as Kang asked him if he sent a transmission to Shinwoo. Suk-gun questioned Kang if he had reached the level to eavesdrop on transmissions. Kang replied, saying there is no such level. Suk-gun then told Kang what he transmitted to Shinwoo, which was asking him if he was going to stage a match where he'd lose deliberately, but there was no answer. Kang added that losing a match between absolute masters would definitely mean certain death. Suk-gun confirmed, perhaps Shinwoo has a debt to pay with his life. Kang still didn't understand the logic of repaying a debt by losing in a duel. While they were talking, Taeyong shouted "damn it" unconsciously, saying he should have killed the sword demon. The next morning, inside Beijing at the Martial Alliance headquarters, a man was reading the duel letter, questioning why an old man would be so obsessed with duels. Jong Seok, laughing while looking outside, said he was too complacent and should have realized it when the opponent was said to be the sword demon. The man behind remarked, certain that Jong Seok seemed to know the reason behind the duel. Jong Seok looked back, disappointed by the man's lack of information despite his rank, and told the man to pay more attention to the world. But the man stood his ground, saying a martial artist should only focus on honing their skills. Jong Seok then explained what really transpired between Shinwoo and the sword demon. It happened during the Great War between righteousness and evil. There was a place called Wild Chrysanthemum Village, a stronghold of the demonic cult, and the village was massacred by Shinwoo on his own accord. The man questioned the word massacre, unable to believe that someone as serene as Shinwoo would do such a thing. It also shocked Jong Seok and the others as well, and they later found out that in that Wild Chrysanthemum Village, the sword demon's wife and child were there. Shinwoo is certain they may lose Manhua's best swordsman if the duel begins. The man commented, that won't be possible because no matter how great the sword demon is, Taeyong's squad is also there. But Jong Seok told the man that isn't exactly the problem. The problem is Shinwoo in the duel. He then stopped what he was about to say midway, telling the man they shouldn't be wasting time here, and questioning where the nearest branch from Manhua is located. At Manhua, inside a building, there was an ongoing meeting of elders. A man named Relentless Jinwoo slammed the table in disagreement, saying it isn't true that Shinwoo is going to fight a duel where he would lose. Even the Manhua sect leader Iron Plum Blossom Yunsik couldn't believe it either, and the same goes for other elders. Shinwoo, who was also at the gathering, acted surprised, questioning where they all heard such a thing from. Then he said there is no way he would do such a thing as losing a duel on purpose. But Taeyong arrived in the room, mentioning the Wild Chrysanthemum Village. then asked Shinwoo if the name still rings a bell. Kang, who also arrived in the room, looked at how the elders questioned each other, not knowing about the wild chrysanthemum village. Kang already expected that most of them wouldn't know, and those who knew had kept it a secret. Jinwoo then lashed out at Taeyong for bringing marketplace gossip to accuse their senior brother, which is beyond rude. But Taeyong countered, "Beyond rude, you say? Manhua's top swordsman intends to spare his opponent in a duel, obstructing the Alliance's mission to eliminate the demonic cultists due to his guilt." He sat down, then told them he wonders if Shinwoo has forgotten the pledge they made to wipe out the demonic cult. That's why he can only be suspicious of Shinwoo. The elders couldn't say anything. Shinwoo then spoke in a calm tone that during the last righteous and evil war, he eradicated a village of the demonic cult. Jinwoo voiced out that Shinwoo was only following the orders from above, but Shinwoo disagreed, saying he volunteered for the mission. This came as a surprise to the elders who didn't know. Shinwoo continued, "Most of the casualties were civilians. Though it was during a war, even now, a decade later, I still can't shake off the guilt. But since a debt is a debt, and a duel is a duel, as a warrior of the Manhua sect, I neither learned nor know how to lose deliberately." So, he begged Taeyong he should not stop the duel. All the elders did the same, standing up and begging respectfully. Hours later, at Manhua's arena, all the elders gathered, and the same goes for Kang and his underlings. Sukun told Kang that he's really a cruel man, but Kang had no idea what he was talking about. So Sukun remarked, "Now everyone knows about Chrysanthemum Village." Kang debunked his claim, saying it was Taeyong who brought up Chrysanthemum Village though, but Sukun told Kang he knew he was the one who ordered it. Kang couldn't argue, then said, "If the person involved doesn't speak about it directly, unfounded rumors may start to spread afterward." Hearing this, Sukun questioned if Kang is predicting Shinwoo's defeat, but Kang confirmed he's just preparing for the worst-case scenario. Suddenly, everyone looked up surprised, seeing the sword demon appear on stage and land majestically, standing in front of Shinwoo. The sword demon then told Shinwoo, "It seems he has managed to survive all this time." Shinwoo replied, "Of course, I had to survive. I had to, just to face this moment." "Now then," Sword Demon told him, "we should end it all today." Shinwoo also pulled out his sword to defend against Sword Demon's attack. The first strike was a tie since they both parried off each other's attack. Jichong was surprised at the unfolding battle. Shinwoo skillfully twisted his sword, then prepared for another attack, and the same goes for Sword Demon. They both charged out again for another confrontation, each parrying and dodging the attacks sent at them. Bang! Their swords clashed. Shinwoo launched a swift sword strike, but Sword Demon dodged it with ease. Not even a mark was left on his clothes. He countered, striking back at Shinwoo. This multiple and swift exchange of blows and techniques left the audience in awe. Sword Demon then activated his technique, Mara 18 forms, and furiously struck at Shinwoo. Shinwoo, who refused to sit and watch, also activated his technique, 36 Plum Blossom Swords, in order to counter Sword Demon's technique. Seeing this, Taeyong questioned, if such battle intensity is truly a battle of mastery in Huajing. The battle made his face burn with excitement. He realized how far behind he was compared to them, as he once thought he could be equal with such an enormous mountain. But Sukun commented that something is strange. Very strange indeed, Kang confirmed. Taeyong on the other end had no idea what they were talking about. Seeing them fight, Kang commented, "It's like they're engaging in a non-geum." Non-geum is a type of duel where martial artists compare skills through words rather than physical combat. Among experts, even a non-geum can reveal each other's skill level and determine victory or defeat. Sukun also agreed that Kang's analysis is correct. Taeyong questioned if it's truly a non-geum because of how desperate their techniques are. Kang replied, "Yes, it's exactly as Taeyong said. Their techniques are desperate. They're desperately dismantling each other's techniques, as if they're releasing years of pent-up resentment." Taeyong worriedly wondered at what level one must be to see such a thing. Of course, Kang's deduction was correct. The Sword Demon told Shinwoo, "It seems he hasn't wasted his time for a whole 60 years. "Indeed," Shinwoo replied. "I have eagerly awaited our reunion. The same goes for Sword Demon. He has preserved his fleeting life just for this moment." Shinwoo then told him he would give it his all, which was exactly what Sword Demon desired. Round 3, they both charged up their energy, leaving the audience shocked. Sword Demon performed his sword technique, and the same goes for Shinwoo, as petals of plums surrounded him. Then he used those plum flowers to counter Sword Demon's technique. Shinwoo stood beneath the rushing burst of light as countless strikes rained down on him. Blades of energy cut past his shoulders and back, each impact carving into him. He raised his arm to block, but the force pushed through and drew more blood. Through the storm of attacks, Sword Demon pushed forward with his blade drawn, his eyes glowing red as he drove another slash straight into Shinwoo. The strike cut deep, sending a spray of blood across the air, the impact shaking the ground. Sogen shielded his face from the blast. He tried to steady himself and questioned what was happening as Sword Demon emerged from the fading light. Still advancing, Shinwoo staggered, his body covered in wounds, while the onlookers watched in shock. Taeyong studied the clash, judging it a close fight, and acknowledging that either combatant could fall first. Yet he admitted he needed to prevent Shinwoo from being the one to collapse. Even as Shinwoo struggled to remain standing, Taeyong noted how calm the man appeared in the middle of such a brutal exchange, and wondered how he could remain so carefree in this situation. Sogen and Kang watched the distant clash in silence. Sword Demon, blood running down his face, stated that all he had left were his final 3 techniques. Shinwoo, equally wounded, answered that he was in the same position, with nothing else to rely on. Both agreed they had to continue fighting. Their blades rose again, each gripping their weapons with the last of their strength. Nearby, others looked on. Women watched tensely, and a horn sounded across the fortress. The heavy gate shook as soldiers marched out beneath raised banners. Others recognized the formation. Sogen muttered in disbelief as the soldiers advanced. The flag of the Martial Arts Alliance came into view, carried high by the approaching forces. A man in black robes stepped forward at their head while Sogen reacted with frustration, calling them blastards. The Alliance messenger the duel to halt. The voice formally declared that Shinwoo, the best swordsman of Manhua, must end the fight immediately. The Alliance messenger announced that the order was to capture Sword Demon and escort him to the Martial Arts Alliance. Jinwoo and Yeonsik reacted immediately, surprised by the intervention. Jinwoo questioned why the Alliance had stepped in, calling the interruption of a duel unreasonable. Taeyong answered that stopping the fight was still better than losing the best swordsman of Manhua, and pointed out that the duel had reached a point where Shinwoo could have been defeated. Sogen dismissed the idea and mocked the notion that Taeyong had reached enlightenment. Taeyong challenged his remark. Sogen insisted that anyone with sense could see the duel's imbalance. Taeyong claims that Shinwoo was clearly injured and at risk if he continued expending more energy. Taeyong turned to Kang and asked for his view. Kang stated that, from his perspective, there was no sign indicating Shinwoo was going to lose. Taeyong considered his words in silence. Sogen raised his voice again, lamenting that the premature decision of the duel's verifier would damage Manhua's reputation. The Alliance officials remained silent. As Jinwoo, Yeonsik and Taeyong narrowed his eyes, a quiet laugh escaped Taeyong. As the tension hung over the group, Taeyong declared that who gave them the right to stop the duel. He alone was overseeing the scene. The messenger raised the scroll, stating he had the Alliance's direct order, and soldiers massed behind him. Taeyong dismissed it with a shout, claiming no outside command overrode his authority as verifier. The messenger argued back, questioning the logic behind defying the Alliance's command. Taeyong muttered the word to himself, as if tasting it, then clenched his fist. Power surged, symbols tearing through the air as energy wrapped around his arm. The ground exploded beneath him as he struck, force splitting stone and sending debris flying. The messenger staggered, barely holding his ground as the shockwave washed over him. With the field silenced, Taeyong ordered the duel to resume. The crowd roared in agreement. Across from them, Sword Demon smirked, noting that the Alliance wasn't entirely useless. Shinwoo echoed that sentiment quietly, proud that warriors still held their dignity. Sogen warned Taeyong that his stance could hinder his promotions, but Taeyong only offered a dismissive grunt. Taeyong reminded him he'd need to stand by his words, because if Shinwoo were to lose now, the consequences could be catastrophic. Sogen froze mid-breath at that revelation, eyes sharpening as he realized the gravity. Around them, even others stiffened. High above, Shinwoo pushed forward despite his wounds, unleashing a final surge of power as the duel resumed. But before Shinwoo could understand anything, Sword Demon lands a critical hit on Shinwoo. The impact hit him head-on, blood pouring from his mouth as he staggered. The onlookers flinched with a collective gasp. The woman covered her mouth while others froze in shock. Sword Demon pressed in, his blade wrapped in swirling blue energy as he advanced without pause. Shinwoo met the incoming strike, his eyes glowing red as he steadied his stance. The two clashed again, the force shaking the ground. Their blades collided, sparks bursting between them. Sword Demon unleashed another surge, his slash sweeping downward in a streak of blue. Shinwoo countered, lifting his sword to block. The collision rang out sharply as energy crackled between the two weapons. The shockwave pushed several spectators back, forcing them to shield themselves while shouting in alarm. Above them, Shinwoo was struck by the force, his body flung back through the air as countless slashes tore at him. The onlookers shouted in shock as he struggled to stay upright. More strikes followed, each cutting deeper into him. His body twisted from the impact, and several disciples cried out in alarm. The woman whispered his title, the greatest swordsman of Manhua, in disbelief, watching him get pushed back again. Sword Demon continued advancing. The crowd murmured that the greatest swordsman of Manhua was being overwhelmed. Taeyong's face hardened while another officer stared tensely. The whisper rose louder. Shinwoo had fallen. Gasps spread across the hall. The Alliance messenger froze, unable to speak, while Taeyong stepped forward, startled by what he saw. Taeyong's eyes narrowed as he steadied Shinwoo, refusing to collapse. Swords suddenly struck the ground, drawing everyone's attention. Taeyong reacted with surprise as Shinwoo pulled his blade free again, breathing heavily as blood dripped down his face and beard. His grip tightened despite the trembling in his arm. Sword Demon noted Shinwoo's refusal to fall and stared back with his red-lit eyes. Shinwoo exhaled raggedly, barely holding his stance. The Sword Demon asked why he hadn't dodged. Shinwoo answered that he wouldn't have understood otherwise. He continued upward movement, still raising his blade. He said he had needed to know the Sword Demon's true strength. Taeyong finally released a long breath. Taeyong asked if Shinwoo's choice hadn't been too reckless, saying Shinwoo had pushed himself to the extreme just to gauge his opponent's power. Sogun replied that it wasn't just that. He explained that blocking an attack always inflicted greater impact than dodging it. He said the attacker also had to expend much more energy. He added that while the face being hit hurts, the fist that punches also suffers. He told Taeyong this was his area of expertise better than anyone else. Sogun asked Taeyong to look. If he had dodged, the internal injuries he suffered wouldn't have happened, but the Sword Demon would also have avoided internal damage. The Sword Demon gritted his teeth. His hand trembled as he held his blade, the strain visible even as he stood firm. He called out to Shinwoo, noting that among all the righteous faction masters he had ever fought, Shinwoo's swordsmanship stood above the rest. He acknowledged that within Shinwoo's group, the title of best swordsman belonged to the Taeguk sword god. Yet after facing Shinwoo directly, he insisted the truth was different. His eyes burned red as he stated it plainly, but to Shinwoo, the rest meant nothing. He cared only about surpassing himself. Shinwoo lifted his head toward the swirling sky as the air vibrated, but the Sword Demon reminded him that today, the one he needed to surpass was the man standing right in front of him. Dark energy surged as he launched forward with everything he had. His blade ignited with a cold blue aura, the ground shaking beneath each step. Shinwoo watched the attack gathering, his own last strength pooling for a single response. Only one strike remained between them. The Sword Demon's smile sharpened, blood trailing down his chin as he promised the outcome. When that final strike fell, only one of them would still be standing. He declared that the winner of that strike would be the greatest swordsman under heaven. Both of them lunged forward to attack. A sudden memory shows Sword Demon stood alone in the settling silence. He saw his ruined village, smoke drifting through shattered homes. He walked through the debris and entered a dark room where a young woman lay unconscious on a bed. Sword Demon approached her slowly, extending a shaky hand toward her pale fingers. Blood scattered across the woman's hand as Sword Demon's fingers touched it, leaving a red smear behind. A strained breath escaped him. His voice trembled as he tried to speak, the sound catching in his throat. He muttered in relief, grateful that the woman was unharmed. The broken structure groaned as dust drifted down, and again the faint whisper echoed that it was fortunate. A soft glow appeared within the darkness. At present, a pale flower bloomed in midair, surrounded by drifting particles of light. The petals spread outward, forming a spiral that brightened into a beam. A crystal manifested at the center of the glow. It spun rapidly before expanding into a sharp glowing shard. Shinwoo's sword directly hit Sword Demon in the chest. On the ground, woman watched in shock. Jinwoo shouted as the impact rippled across the arena. Yunsik reacted sharply, trying to understand the outcome. Kang, Sogun and the other fighters looked on in silence as the dust began to settle. Sword Demon lay slumped in Shinwoo's lap. His breathing weakened. He told Shinwoo that he had been surpassed. He used the last of his breath to call Shinwoo the world's greatest swordsman. Shinwoo looked down at him and stated that his revenge had been left unfinished. Sword Demon denied it. With a faint grin, he said his revenge had already succeeded. The reason, he explained, was simple. Shinwoo being a murderer was now known to the entire world. Shinwoo stared at him in silence as the ruined arena stretched behind him. Sword Demon added that exposing that truth was all he needed. Shinwoo asked if everything had been orchestrated just for that. Sword Demon answered that there had been something he had wanted Shinwoo to know. His voice weakened further as he thanked him. Shinwoo's eyes widened. Sword Demon exhaled and went still. Shinwoo lowered him gently and stood. Below the arena, Taeyong approached and questioned the meaning of Sword Demon's final words, asking why he would express gratitude to Shinwoo. Shinwoo replied by thanking Officer Taeyong. He explained that thanks to Taeyong's earlier actions he had been able to finish the duel without interference. Taeyong stiffened at the statement, his expression tightening as he murmured that was merely his duty. Shinwoo then admitted there was no need to hide anything anymore. He revealed that at Chrysanthemum Village the sword demon had been present, and that he personally killed the villagers. Shock rippled through the men around him. Shinwoo explained that the sword demon's thanks were for that very incident, though the officer failed to understand. Shinwoo then stated that, like any war, a battlefield demanded brutality. His mind replayed earlier arguments, accusations about using villagers as shields, the clash over cruelty, and warnings about becoming no different from their enemy. His superior had insisted that war required cunning and harsh measures. Because of that decision, the people of Chrysanthemum Village had been doomed. The moment they became the target of someone who spared no means to reach their goals, their peace was lost. They were tortured and abused, trapped behind bars with no escape. A young mother held her child while armed men stood outside the cage. They were destined to become sacrifices for allies bent on revenge. Forced into a nightmare where the living envied the dead, Shinwoo stated that if they had been the sword demon's family, their fate would have been even more gruesome. He explained that this was why he had taken matters into his own hands. Taeyong looked at him, remarking that the supreme sword of the heavens acting in such a cold-blooded way was unexpected. Shinwoo told him he would come to understand soon enough. At the Martial Alliance, the grand building stood over the courtyard. An elder supreme sword of heaven tended to a plant in silence until another officer approached, calling out to him. The officer asked if the report had arrived. Supreme Sword of Heaven replied that he wasn't sure which report the man meant, but preferred to hear it directly. The officer reminded him of his earlier concern about losing Manhua's top swordsman and questioned why he was acting indifferent now. Supreme Sword of Heaven turned away, stating there was no need to worry anymore. The officer continued, saying the duel had ended with Manhua's swordsman as the victor. He added that the sword demon was dead. Supreme Sword of Heaven narrowed his eyes at the statement. The officer or say man noted an additional detail, drawing attention to Shinwoo, who had apparently taken matters further. While trimming the orchid leaves in silence, the supreme sword shifted slightly as the next words fell. Shinwoo had challenged him to a duel. He paused only for a breath, the leaf snapping cleanly between his fingers. He asked if he had heard, but the man simply stared ahead as murmurs rose. He assumed Supreme Sword of Heaven had lost his mind, their disbelief mounting, as the Supreme Sword of Heaven imagined the match. The idea alone sent a thrill through them, and one even suggested turning the duel into a spectacle to sell tickets. Before their fantasies could grow, a voice called out. Urgent news had arrived. The messenger stepped forward, but the elders brushed him off, assuming it was the same report. The man shook his head. This one came from the North Sea Ice Palace. Their expressions tightened. The man asked what had happened. The messenger swallowed hard before delivering the name. The Lord of the North Sea, Absolute Ice Jade. Scene shifts and we see a violent storm swept across the northern waters. Snow and wind tearing through the landscape as the distant palace lay half-shrouded by the blizzard. Inside the North Sea Ice Palace, the old lord lay unconscious on his bed. A silver-haired woman stood beside him, watching silently. A crystalline star formed, releasing a cold radiance that descended toward him. A door opened sharply. A figure appeared with some other men's. The four elders of the North Sea Ice Palace appeared. Seojiho, Yuhu, Seogong, and Guho. A hooded figure stood behind them. Seogunryo asked if the ice crystal had been secured. Yuhu answered that it had not. Seogunryo stated that until they obtained the ice crystal, Aaron had to be kept away from the palace mistress. Seogong reported that security had been tightened. Seogunryo moved forward with the others and found two guards collapsed on the ground. He pushed open the inner doors. Inside, Aaron stood ready, the power around her wrist glowing with light. Seogunryo ordered her men to seize Aaron. Yuhu and the others hesitated. The hooded man rushed forward. An icy burst erupted below, forming a rising mass of crystal as he reached toward it. Ran burst upward through the exploding ice, shards scattering around her. Yuhu reacted in surprise, and Seogunryo stepped back as Aaron lunged. Ran's eyes fixed on Seogunryo as she struck toward her, releasing a blast of energy, and let out a shout. Aaron was thrown back, sliding across the floor, while the elders watched her. Howling blizzard swept across a distant mountain path where a group traveled through the storm. One of them muttered that the cold was unbearable. Elder Taeyong remarked that even someone resistant to poison struggled here. Sogun said his hometown rarely saw snow even in winter. He added that people of the northern seas likely wouldn't endure Sichuan's heat. As they continued, Sogun noticed lights ahead. Kang explained that it was the Northern Seas Commerce District. Ogun, saying he would go warm up there. His companion reacted in confusion, whereas Sogun hurried ahead toward the lights through the storm. Then he ignored the others calling after him. Inside the palace hall, an attendant told the arriving group to wait, saying the new palace mistress would appear soon. Taeyong teased Kang, asking how someone who liked women could miss seeing Bing Yoje, regarded as the most beautiful woman in the martial world. Kang if Seolaran had really been that renowned. The The group entered as the elders prepared to introduce the new leader. Seo Gunryo welcomed Taeyong, martial official, and introduced herself as the new palace mistress of the Northern Ice Palace. Taeyong questioned the name, saying he had heard Seol Aran was the rightful successor. Seo Gunryo responded with a brief thought. He then stated that Seol Aran was wanted for assassinating the former palace mistress and stealing the ice crystal. The guests reacted with surprise. Scene shifts and we see the group move through the lit walkway. Former palace mistress's body lay prepared for rites. Taeyong remarked that the deceased was one of the 10 grandmasters, and that meeting her in such a state was unfortunate. He noticed someone unfamiliar. He whispered to himself that the newcomer used the Golden King's Jiang style. Before he can think more, suddenly, a drum was struck repeatedly as the gathered men turned toward the sound. Seo Gunryo stepped forward, flanked by attendants, and addressed the crowd. She introduced herself as Seo Gunryo and declared herself the rightful successor of the Northern Seas. Her voice carried over the hall as she repeated the declaration before the assembled visitors. Group of martial artists lowered their heads and greeted her as the new palace mistress. Murmurs spread among the crowd as others watched in silence. Ayoung stood with a cold expression. One man raised a question, asking whether the palace mistress of the Northern Ice Palace should be recognized by the ice crystal. Another agreed and demanded to know what had happened to it. Nay of the palace elder answered that the ice crystal had been stolen by the traitor who assassinated the palace mistress. He added that the palace could not remain without a leader even for a moment. Another group objected, saying only the one who inherited the ice crystal could become the true palace mistress. Someone argued that Seol Gunryo was the sole successor, while another pointed out that Seol Aran was still alive. A sharp response came that Seol Aran was a traitor. As the tension rose, Taeyong received a message through a focused burst of energy by Kang. Kang told him to leave the place. Taeyong reacted with surprise, whereas Kang reminded him that he was representing the Martial Alliance and said that staying for this succession would imply the alliance recognized Seol Gunryo as the new palace mistress. Kang warned that attending a succession without the ice crystal could complicate the elder's position. Taeyong considered it silently, then decided. He told his attendants to leave, and they followed him out. Seol Gunryo watched them go with surprise, then said nothing as they walked away. Outside, the wind howled around the palace. Taeyong later reflected alone. He realized Seol Gunryo had tried to use the mourners at the funeral to legitimize her claim. He acknowledged he had nearly been caught in her scheme. He then wondered how the young man, Kang, had seen through it so easily, concluding that he might have more talent in that area than in martial arts. Footsteps approached. Someone entered the dim room where Kang Chonsik lay asleep. Seol Aran stood over him and told him to wake up. Kang Chonsik opened his eyes weakly and asked what she hoped to gain by threatening him. She stated she had heard he was Taeyong's only disciple. Kang Chonsik understood and said she intended to negotiate with his master by using his life as leverage. Seol Aran answered that he was correct. Kang said that such leverage only worked on a master who cared about their disciple. Seol Aran reacted with confusion and then ordered him not to move and warned she could kill him. Kang replied that if she did, his master might even thank her. She stared at him in shock. Taeyong called from outside asking if Kang was asleep. Seol Aran stiffened. Kang's eyes sharpened, and he struck upward while grabbing Seol Aran's hand. She blocked and deflected the blast but was pushed back. Kang seized her from behind, holding her hand at her neck. He told her she had let her guard down, calling her Ice Empress. Taeyong stepped into the room and paused with surprise. Then he apologized lightly, saying it seemed like he had interrupted something. Both shouted that this was not the case. Taeyong stated that Aran had always been the strongest successor to inherit the North Sea Ice Palace. He then demanded to know why she had killed the palace lord and stolen the ice crystal. Aran answered that she had not killed the palace lord. Taeyong asked who had done it. She looked toward the door. When the door suddenly burst open, then Seol Gunryo thanked Taeyong, saying Taeyong had saved them trouble. Aran saw the masked man and shouted that he was the one who had killed her grandmother. Gunryo called her a traitor and ordered her to be silent. The man lunged toward Aran so he can catch and kill her. Kang moved and caught Aran. The masked man watched them with glowing eyes. Kang checked Aran's condition as she looked up weakly, and the masked attacker advanced toward them. Seol Gunryo watched Kang step forward, her expression tightening. Kang asked Taeyong to handle things for a moment and moved ahead without hesitation. The man countered with a heavy blow, sending Kang through the hall and out into the storm. Snow whipped around as Taeyong recovered and met the man mid-air, grabbing its arm and throwing it down. Seol Gunryo demanded to know what Taeyong was doing. Taeyong only smiled, whereas Seol Gunryo stated that he had chosen the wrong side and warned he would regret it. Taeyong remarked that in his experience Kang's instincts had never been wrong. Seolgun Ryo clenched her jaw as the clash continued. The man roared and launched itself upward. Taeyong rose to meet it, gathering force in his fist. Their strikes collided in midair, sending a shockwave through the storm. The man crashed downward as Taeyong forced it into the snow, driving it into the ground with a burst of blue energy. Taeyong recognized the sensation spreading through its body, and realized what he had felt. He looked at the darkened blade in the man's hand and identified it as poison steel. Wind tore across the mountains. Kang and Aran ran through the blizzard. Aran apologized for dragging him into the mess. Kang told her to forget that and asked who was chasing them. Aran glanced back and reacted with confusion before noticing multiple silhouettes closing in. She identified them as the North Sea 11. Ice surged across the ground as the group advanced through the storm, rapidly gaining on them. Nearby, other warriors braced themselves as the pursuers approached. Aran warned Kang to be careful. She stated that they were skilled fighters far beyond Kang's ability to handle. Kang answered calmly. A man addressed Aran as princess and urged her to go back. Aran asked if returning would spare her. He replied that her own people would not kill their kin. Aran lowered her gaze and said they were calling her a traitor accused of assassinating the palace lord. Then Aran asked what deal the man had made with Seolgun Ryo. The man said there was no time to waste and ordered his men to capture through Bando. Several of the North Sea 11 leapt forward. Black ropes shot toward Aran and wrapped around her, tightening with force. She tried to break free, frost gathering around her arms. Kang's expression hardened as he charged in, whereas Aran steadied herself, gathering icy energy along her hand. Aran's ice burst outward and shattered the ropes around her. Frozen shards spread across the ground as the attackers stepped back through the storm. Kang watched her release a cold breath. The man leading the group stated that taking her in peacefully was no longer possible. Aran struck forward, launching herself at them. She said she had not wanted it to reach this point either. Her fist collided with the man, and the impact sent a sharp flash of blue light through his arm. She tightened her grip on his wrist, ice spreading across his skin. His eyes widened as frost climbed up his arm. The man shouted in pain and was thrown back. The others behind him stiffened as they watched the clash. Aran stepped ahead and warned Kang not to interfere, saying the opponent was too much for him. Kang hesitated, then quietly agreed, where, as in the palace, the explosion of cold pushed outward again, shaking the area. Gunryo looked at him sharply. Taeyong noted the change in the man's aura, and recalled Seol Aran's earlier warning. Taeyong's thoughts replayed Aran's claim. If it was true, then the opponent Aran mentioned had once defeated one of the 10 great masters. He considered his own progress, acknowledging his recent improvement while questioning whether it was enough. Taeyong wondered if he could truly face someone like that. He muttered to himself that if that man Sogun were here, he would fight without hesitation. The thought tightened his expression. A sudden thought interrupted him. He recalled a memory when Sogun caught Kang's wrist. Energy hissed through the air. Kang stood before him, veins glowing green up to his arms. Sogun asked how this was possible. He explained that what he had just tested was the 1,000 poisons. Kang froze briefly as Sogun continued, pointing out that he had survived the strongest poison in the world. Sogun declared the result plainly. Kang had become immune to all poisons. Taeyong and the others watched as Kang steadied himself, the realization visible on their faces, while Taeyong processed the conclusion in silence. Taeyong stated that it was his turn. Sogun tried to stop him, warning that approaching him would mean instant death. Taeyong muttered with frustration, wondering how monstrous Kang truly was. Taeyong advanced toward Kang. Kang met his gaze without reacting. Sogun called out again, then added that Taeyong shouldn't be too discouraged. He said that fighting him had given Taeyong at least some resistance to poison. Taeyong stood nearby and repeated the line to himself, noting the unexpected benefit. In present, a faint sound escaped him as he lowered his head. His fist tightened. He looked at his hand, considering the statement. The thought surfaced. He had already faced death 2 or 3 times before. Taeyong's eyes sharpened. This time, he prepared himself. He launched forward, shouting his resolve. Blue energy surged around him as he charged directly at the man. The force of Taeyong's attack tore through the air. The two collided, exchanging rapid, heavy blows. Blue light exploded around them as Taeyong continued striking without hesitation. The impact shook the ground repeatedly as the clash intensified, Taeyong pushing forward through each burst of force. Seolgunryo watched from a distance with tense focus and recognized the technique, identifying it as the king's spear fist. The masked man beside her narrowed his eyes, surprised by Taeyong's strength. Taeyong sensed something shift and paused for a heartbeat. Blue energy swirled around his arm as he steadied himself. Sweat rolled down his brow as he glared ahead. The man emerged through the shards of ice, its blue eyes glowing fiercely from beneath the wrappings. It darted forward, closing the distance instantly. Taeyong braced, but the man crashed into him, its strike slamming against his guard. Blood trailed from Taeyong's mouth as he pushed himself up. The man paused, its glowing eyes widening in surprise. Taeyong narrowed his gaze, steadying his breath. He clenched his fist, ignoring the blood on his beard. The man lunged again, but Taeyong caught its hand. Their grips locked, blue sparks bursting between their arms. The man pressed harder, but Taeyong held his ground. Poisoned veins crawled across the man's hand as Taeyong's resistance forced its power back. Taeyong's thoughts ran sharp. He dismissed the idea of relying on inner strength alone. He knew he wouldn't last unless he truly had immunity to every poison. He forced out another breath and stood firm despite the strain. Taeyong launched a kick directly on the man. Gunryo reacted with a sharp inhale as she watched from a distance. Taeyong attacked with a mocking farewell, turning as if to withdraw. A sharp cry followed as it sprinted away. Gunryo shouted for it to stop. She ordered her group to prioritize chasing Seolaran. The man paused and glanced back at Gunryo. It stated calmly that it must have disappointed her, whereas one of the masked subordinates called for everyone to attack at once. A burst of cold formed around his fist as he charged. The fighters rushed together, surrounding the target as they moved in unison. Kang stood in their path, calm as blue flames rose around him. He watched them approach and reminded them they were no match for him. His expression remained steady as the wind shifted around him. One of the masked men leaped ahead to strike, but Aaron sidestepped, sending the attacker flying past him. Another assailant attempted to flank him. Aaron moved lightly and avoided the blow, letting the attacker stumble through the snow. A third fighter grabbed one of his allies to prevent him from being dragged further. Their combined strength steadied the clash for a moment, but Aaron's power surged. Blue light erupted from the defender's arm as Aaron broke through their resistance. The man gritted his teeth, struggling under the force. Aaron's push sent a heavy shock through the man's body, forcing him backward. Aaron continued advancing while other fighters tried to intercept. One raised his glowing claws, rushing toward her with a sharp strike. The attacker appeared behind Aaron and apologized to her, lifting his arm to strike again. Aaron turned sharply as the claws came down, but the attacker swept past, leaving a blur of motion. Kang appeared behind Aaron, stopping the strike aimed at her. The attacker gritted his teeth, struggling under the pressure. The ground cracked from the force before the attacker's was blown backward. A man watched, unable to process the sudden imbalance in strength, whereas Kang asked Aaron if she was unharmed. Aaron noted the skill he displayed, questioning how the successor of the Chengwang fist could be this strong. She steadied her breath and thanked him for helping her escape. Kang replied she would have managed even without him. Aaron paused, unsure. Kang explained that without him, she might have ended up killing the Northern C-11. For a warrior, he said, it could be unavoidable, but someone destined to become the palace lord shouldn't kill her own people. Aaron accepted his reasoning, and Kang asked what they should do next as they couldn't keep running forever. Aaron told him to follow her, saying there was someone they needed to meet. Kang noted she already had a plan. Aaron approached the snow-covered cabin, pushing the creaking door open as cold air spilled inside. She stepped in with Kang following close behind, both halting when they saw the ruined interior. Their eyes adjusted to the dimness, Aaron narrowing hers, Kang's gaze sharpening in response. A voice came apologizing for arriving late. A man slipped behind her, his presence quiet but deliberate. She sensed him a moment before he placed a hand on her shoulder. Aaron asked if he had brought the item. He chuckled, answering that of course he had brought his part as well. A group of hooded figures appeared ahead. Kang watched silently and muttered that the identity of the man. He was a mourner among them. A box opened, revealing the green pills inside. Aaron examined them closely, calmly confirming they were the true pills of vitality. The man laughed off her doubt, boasting about his wealth and reputation, insisting he wouldn't trade fakes. Aaron's lips curved as she asked whether he expected her to lose. The question halted his grin. Kang watched them, demanding to know the nature of their deal, but Aaron stayed silent, whereas at the same time near Ice Lord Palace, a man shouted to seize the allies of Taeyong. Snow exploded under rushing feet as armed figures charged, their shadows cutting across the icy ground. The group broke into motion, their silhouettes slicing through the storm as one attacker after another fell. Chains snapped, strikes blurred, and bodies hit the snow. The remaining officers gathered. One reported they were the last left. Their leader asked where Officer Taeyong had gone, confusion tightening his brow. He questions why the Ice Palace is chasing them. Dark cloaked figures approach through the storm. An officer turns slightly, offering no answer. The enemy leader, or say elder of the Ice Lord Palace, calls the Alliance rats and declares there is nowhere left to run. The group stands ready while he advances. A baldy officer hums in thought before the enemy lunges with a shout. Ice erupts upward in a sharp blast, headed toward the group. The group observes the frozen attack as the enemy commander recoils. But then Sogun steps forward, brushing off the attack. He mutters about the cold. The scene shifts to a distant place. Kang considers the message he overheard, that the Golden King wants Iran defeated. Aaron states that he must have negotiated with the military commander as well. The man Kunwan as King Guillaume explains that a merchant always keeps alternatives prepared. Aaron told Guillaume he might want her to lose, and she stated it calmly. She then added that she had already promised him a marriage if she were defeated. Across from her, Kang reacted in brief confusion at the word. Jiam smirked, acknowledging that, as a merchant, he naturally pursued the greater benefit. Aaron noted that he still had to prepare for her victory as well. Guillaume agreed, explaining that if the Fire King's pill were fake, the deal would collapse and damage his reputation, and he reminded her that a great master like him wouldn't act recklessly. Facing her closely, he assured her the pill was genuine. Aaron fell silent, then opened the black case containing the pill. Back at the group, the surviving men regrouped in the snow. One announced he was alive, another asked about Officer Taeyong, and the others questioned the whereabouts of Kang. Sogun reported he was completely alone, causing another to lament their dire situation. The elder stood at the front, his expression hardened as he stated that Elaine's dogs have now no way to run around. One of the men behind Sogun asked what they should do. Sogun clicked his tongue, unimpressed, wondering if these frightened youths were truly meant to be the Martial Alliance's future. A man stepped forward, explaining that their opponent was one of the 4 great ice generals, second only to the Ice Palace Lord of the Northern Sea. He continued rambling, beginning to introduce Han Seol Gun Yu Hu, until Sogun cut him off sharply, telling him to stop flapping his lips. He added that if it were Kang standing here, he'd have already thrown the first punch. Sogun lunged forward to attack. The elder tried to block the attack by creating ice shield. Sogun's another attack followed. Purple-blue flames gathered in his hands, roaring as they clashed with the storm of ice. Fragments shattered, and the battlefield filled with cracking light and force. Some hooded figure moved through the blizzard, their glowing weapons slicing through the air as they advanced. Sogun smiled confidently. He uses his fist and blocked every attack of the man's lunging toward him. The ground cracked as the impacts continued, and the elder surged forward to break through the assault. Before his punch can land, Sogun grabbed him by the neck. The group watched in shock before the fight resumed. Sugunub picks up the elder and throws him down, whereas Aran and Kang ran across the snow, leaving clear tracks behind. Kang noted how far she had gone just to protect her power, calling her bold. She looked back, silent. He asked if she planned to absorb the ice crystal now that she had secured the neutralization pill. She stiffened at the question. He wondered why she was surprised, calling it the natural next step. She agreed, adding that without the crystal's recognition, she couldn't become ruler of the Northern Sea. He asked why she wanted the position so badly. She froze at the question. He stated that power was only a burden. He then wondered aloud if she was taking on something too large for her age. She answered that she had her own reason. Then she added that she had a favor to ask. She states that to absorb the ice crystal she needs him. He freezes, confused. Snow strikes again as distant combat echoes through the mountain. Elder screams while gripping his wounded arm. He seizes Sogun's arm, frost cracking under pressure. Energy surges again, breaking apart ice and releasing heat and steam. He groans through the reaction. Sogun questions why the Ice Palace is attacking the Alliance envoy. The elder replies, Taeyong, the Alliance martial officer, sided with the rebel Seol Aran. Then Sogun questions this. Seol Aran is supposed to be the Ice Palace successor. An officer wonders how Sogun is unaware of the situation. He turns away, saying the answer will become clear soon. Another officer studied the fallen elder and murmured among themselves. One of them noted how easily Sogun had subdued a commander of the Ice Guard, wondering if the Grand Chieftain's skill had truly been at that level. Another remarked that Taeyong, the martial officer, had defeated such a figure like him and jokingly referred to him as the god of battle. They stiffened when they saw Sogun approaching. He told the group to follow. When asked where, he only grinned before explaining that they were heading to the Divine Blood Palace. The group reacted in disbelief, surprised that such a place existed. Inside a cavern path, Kang walked with Aran. He asked if this was where the ice crystal had been hidden. Aran confirmed it, adding that this was also where the ice crystal had originally been created. She explained that, long ago, this place had served as the Ice Palace. Kang observed the structure ahead and stated that the term natural fortress fitted well. She explained an incident that during the conflict between the Orthodox and demonic sects, the Divine Blood Palace had suffered severe damage. The invader responsible was the Venom Demon. Kang recalled the Venom Demon's name as he pictured its silhouette. Venom Demon destroyed countless Northern Sea Masters. Even Aaron's grandfather had died during that period, Kang added, saying the former ruler had eventually subdued the Venom Demon and rose into the ranks of the top 10 masters as a result. Aran added that the Venom Demon had been fearsome, whereas Sogun's group has also arrived at the place. When Sogun explained about the situation he had Kunwan till now, the group reacted as one of them asked if this meant Seomgun Ryo might not be of direct lineage. Sogun replied that, according to the elder he had defeated named Yihuo, or whatever his name had been, he understands some things. Then he continued explaining that one day the ruler had brought a young girl to the palace. Since nothing was ever said about whose child she was or her relationship to the ruler, everyone simply assumed she had been the ruler's hidden descendant. He continued, saying the successor had already been designated as Seol Aran, so the girl's presence held no weight. Years later, a mysterious man entered the palace, and and his name was Mono. An officer reacted when he realized it was the same man who had once protected Seol Gunryo. Sogun asked if he had met him, and the officer answered that it had been brief. Silence followed before someone questioned if this place was truly the Divine Blood Palace. Sogun confirmed it, explaining that the passage had narrowed due to past conflict, and that the inner sanctuary would soon appear. Officer asked how he knew this, and Sogun replied that he had been there before. The group reacted, wondering how the chieftain of the satisfied tribe could have come here. Suddenly, the group lost footing, and the officer slipped, catching himself with a shout. The others tumbled lightly, muttering from the impact. The officer inspected his hand with surprise, before turning toward the figures waiting ahead in the cave. Gunryo and her men was already waited there. The man who was protecting Gunryo till now glanced at Sogun. Realization settles in, as Sogun identifies him internally. He confirms it aloud, recognizing the hooded figure as the one they spoke of. Gunryo's group standing ready, all focused ahead. An officer named Namgung mutters that he shouldn't have come and regrets not going south instead. Sogun recalls loudly that Namgung Chong had always been the one leading charges in battle, then adds that he had been somewhat reckless. Sogun states that it is unfortunate Namgung Chong's descendants turned out lacking. He continues, saying the Namgung family, once compared to tigers, now has only mountain rabbits left. Gunryo steps forward and declares that Sogun's group must be part of the rebel faction. She repeats the accusation, demanding to know how they entered the sacred place. Sogun dismisses the claim, with a quiet remark about rebels. He then asks whether Gunryo's side were not the real traitors who displaced the rightful heir and took the position. Gunryo stiffens at the accusation. An elder counters, asking how someone who murdered the palace lord and stole the ice crystals could be considered the rightful successor. Sogun answers calmly, asking why Aran would kill the palace lord when she had already been chosen to inherit the position. He adds that Gunryo was the one with a motive. Sogun explains that Gunryo needed the palace lord dead, so she could frame Aran and claim the seat herself. His expression sharpens as he insists his reasoning makes more sense. Gunryo erupts, calling him a lowly barbarian. Sogun repeats the word with amusement, laughing as he says her role as palace lord has blinded her. Gunryo's face reddens, as Sogun declares that seeing someone who should still be clinging to mama's milk parading around drunk on power is revolting. Her hand trembles when she hears it. The officer, startled at how brutal the words of exchange has become. Sogun mocks her pillow's soft clenched fist and asks if she truly believes she can do anything with her strength. He tells her that in the end, she can accomplish nothing on her own, and that she is just a fledgling chick. A deep voice cuts through the air, telling Sogun that it is enough. The man steps forward, stopping the rising tension. Sogun's eyes narrow in surprise. Namgung and the others freeze, unsure of what they heard. They whisper among themselves, confused at how such a sound came from a human throat. Sogun asked, "Who the hell is this guy?" and demanded him to speak clearly. The man's voice deepens, anger spilling through the words as he condemns the insult toward the palace lord. He vows not to forgive it. Sogun only laughs at the supposed loyalty, claiming the figure has chosen the wrong master and will be used and discarded. He mocked him that the master he speaks of would treat the figure like a dog. Hearing this, the man named Mono lunged forward, power tearing through the air. Rock and ice explode outward as Sogun hurled back. Mono strikes again. From the impact of the attack, Sogun's body is thrown into the sky. Energy cracks down with violent force as Sogun plummets, crashing into the ice below in a burst of blue light. As dust settled, Sogun's men rushed to steady him, asking if he was all right. In front of them, Mono's energy erupted once more. The baldy officer stepped forward to attack, blades drawn. Sogun stopped his men, calling them little punks, telling them this fight was beyond what they could handle. He pointed at the man, calling it a monster they weren't prepared for. Namgung watched him, recalling how confidently he had spoken earlier about spirit or whatever. Sogun whispered something in one of his men's ear. Hearing this, the officer became quite shocked. Sogun pushed his men away, shouting for them to run while they still had the chance. They obeyed, retreating as he urged them on. Once they were clear, Sogun steadied himself, muttering that kids should know how to respect their elders, then snarling at the fleeing brats. Gunryo tensed as she turned toward him, teeth grit, calling him out as well. Before she could react, Mono struck again, his movement cutting through the air with speed. Sogun watches Mono's arm rise, blue energy spiraling as it gathers force. The shockwave tears through the air, sending him tumbling as the strike lands. Mono steps through the surge, its fist wrapped in tightening strands of light. The impact digs into the ground, the tunnel shaking with each pulse. Sogun braces himself, managing to stay upright while Sogun's momentum drives past him. Mono lifts him by the coat with one hand, his aura swirling upward in a dark column. Sogun lets out a strained laugh, blood dripping from his mouth. Mono tilts its head, its glowing eyes narrowing. Sogun calls it nothing but a dog and mutters that once the hunt ends it will be tossed into the pot. Mono's expression hardens at the insult. His distorted voice rumbles out, calling Sogun a bastard. Energy spikes around it as it prepares another strike. Mono passes his hand across Sogun's body, whereas scene shifts and we see an elder of North Sea Ice Palace walked ahead with his flame held high while Taeyong followed behind him. Taeyong examined the barred structure and noted that the place had once been used as a prison. The elder explained that since the divine blood was located inside a cave, it naturally became a suitable place to confine someone. They stopped before a door sealed in chains. Taeyong placed his hand on the metal and the elder identified it as eternal cold iron. He mentioned rumors of a monster that could only be contained with that material. A dark, hooded figure with glowing eyes briefly surfaced in Taeyong's memory. As he remembers that man, Taeyong questioned why the elder had brought him to the divine blood at all. He reflected on how he had been branded as part of the rebel faction for siding with Princess Erin. The elder explained that most people in the North Sea supported the current palace lord, while Princess Erin had given hope to the lower classes by making promises to them. When Taeyong asked what promises she had made, the elder described how the barren land forced people to fight for survival daily, a hardship the ruling class used to tighten control. He added that the people were kept in suffering because it made them easier to govern. He continued, saying the ruling class wanted to maintain that situation. Taeyong muttered that this was why the Murim Alliance insisted on preserving the 10 Great Masters system. The elder added that Princess Erin had tried to change things by encouraging trade and commerce. Taeyong recalled that is why that bastard Gold King Guillaume was there. Taeyong urged the elder to leave the matter to him and return immediately, warning that if the palace lord discovered him, he would lose his head. The elder stated he had no regrets about his remaining life and wished only for the princess' safety. Taeyong reassured him and stated that he would protect the princess. A brief shock crossed his expression before he steadied himself. Then he repeated his words, stumbling slightly as he says, "We will actually." Scene shifts and we see Kang asked Aran if she expected him to teach her the Spear King technique. Aran answered that stabilizing the absorption of ice essence required the technique's inner energy formula. Kang paused at her explanation. Erin recalled how her grandmother had once traveled to Shaolin to learn the tendon-altering sutra for the same purpose, but since Shaolin only accepted women, her grandmother had instead recommended the Spear King technique. Aran added that the technique still had roots in Shaolin nonetheless. Kang went silent at that. He then asked about Cha Yon-gun. The man known for Shaolin's infinite potential was there. She continued, saying that he still wasn't on her level. Aran then asked Kang if he knew Sang Yon-rin, the one recognized as the next generation's #1. Kang recalled a memory standing opposite that man, whereas Aran explained that she had been the final candidate competing for that spot, but as the heir to the North Sea Palace, she had been forced to give it up. Kang acknowledged her explanation. Aran concluded by stating that Kang was strong, something she had already confirmed when he fought the 10 Frosts of the North Sea. Aran insists it's not for any other reason. Kang wondered if there is another reason, whereas in the fight, shards of blue light surge downward. Our Baldy Saitama narrows his eyes as the incoming attack crashes around him. Baldy steps forward and blocks the attack with his punch. Namgung stares at the encroaching enemies, questioning how they managed to track the group again. The realization hits. Sogun might have. Namgung demands directions from the young officer Jang Sam, asking whether Sogun's words can be trusted. Jang Sam, or say Sam, stays focused ahead, carrying the weight of the decision. He remembered what Sogun whispered in his ears. Sogun gives urgent instructions. Reach the divine altar by following the marked path and hold out as long as possible. He stresses survival until help arrives. His gaze shifts to that guy, reminding Sam that only that guy is the one meant to save him. Sam steels himself, recalling the warning, survive until Taeyong Martial Hall reaches them. Back in the present, enemies gather in formation. Their leader, and one of the elder of the Nordharn Sea Ice Palace, steps forward, cloaked and unreadable, as Namgung, Baldy and Sam brace for the clash. The elder muttered that he had already avenged Yoo-hoo, though the thought lingered unfinished. Sam questioned the word, only for the elder to declare that they would serve as sacrifices. Our Baldy launched forward with a determination to perish everyone, but his strike swallowed by the massive sphere of energy the elder summoned. After forcing the attack, the sphere shattered, throwing Baldy back with a pained grunt, the others watching in alarm. Sam noted they wouldn't reach the divine altar at this pace. Confused, the elder glanced back before the crackling force erupted around him. The explosion spread outward, and Sam's group steadied themselves as fragments dissolved into the air. The elder noticed something strange among the dust and turned, confused. More energy detonated outward. The field shook under the force. As the haze cleared, we see Taeyong stood there. He acknowledged Elder Iseo Jiho as one of the 4 great ice masters of the Northern Sea. Taeyong challenged Seo Jiho to reveal his strength. Seo Jiho responded by calling him a troublemaking brat and prepared to discipline him, gathering another sphere of energy. The group reacted in shock as Seo Jiho raised the sphere overhead. Taeyong leapt upward, closing the distance. He raised his fist. His strike cracks Seo Jiho's sphere and slamming it to the ground. The counterforce of Taeyong hurled Seo Jiho across the arena. Blood dripped down his chin as he pushed himself up, only for Taeyong to rush him again. Another blow sent Seo Jiho flipping backward. His guards tensed but remained still as the dust rolled outward. The guards reacted with alarm just as shards of blue ice rained down from above. Taeyong moved through them, chasing Seo Jiho with rapid strikes. Elder Seo Jiho retreated, activating a deeper force. Purple energy rose around him as he chanted, summoning a larger surge. His hand stretched outward as the gathered aura compressed and twisted around his fingers. Seo Jiho's wrist is caught mid-strike by Taeyong. Taeyong tells him he has already lost. Seo Jiho glares back in silence, blood running from his mouth. Energy crackles between them as he struggles, but Taeyong holds steady. When Taeyong presses Seo Jiho's arm, pain shoots through Seo Jiho's arm, forcing a scream from him. Guards watch in alarm as Taeyong tightens his hold. The guards shout, but Taeyong ignores them. After a while, he then questions Seo Jiho, demanding clarity. Seo Jiho explains that Sogun, or whatever his name, is dead, stabbed clean through the stomach. Taeyong couldn't process how something like this can even happen. Seo Jiho mutters that the injury should have definitely killed Sogun already. He then laughs, saying Taeyong will join him soon. Taeyong steps back. He realizes Sogun specialized in toxins, yet someone else killed him with something like that. He wonders what kind of monster could do that. Taeyong then mutters that the attacker isn't from the Northern Sea. He demands answers from Seo Jiho, but Seo Jiho weakly dismissed it, expecting that Taeyong adds that the attacker is from the demonic sect. The group react in shock. Taeyong cuts them off, stating he's an inspector from the Alliance, and warns Seo Jiho to tell the truth before he reports that the Ice Palace is colluding with the demon sect. The guards panic. Seo Jiho tries to explain that they were dragged in this. Taeyong repeats the words, puzzled, whereas at the same time a guard bursts in reporting to Gunryo that Mana Crystal is rampaging again. Hearing this, Mano became totally uncontrollable. He grabs the reporting guard with one hand. An older man tried to stop him by stating that they were on his side. Mano grabbed the old man by his throat and crushes it. He roars, then turns back. Gunryo steps forward as guards warned her that it is dangerous. Gunryo places her hand on Mano. Mano turns and tried to attack her, but he stops in the middle when realization struck him. Gunryo tries to calm down Mano. When Mano saw her clearly, then he says, "I am sorry. I am so sorry, my daughter." Whereas we see Sogun suddenly regain his consciousness. He burst upward, coughing violently as he emerged from the smoke. He struggled to breathe, wiping the blood from his mouth. He muttered that he thought he was going to die. He acknowledged the attack had been powerful, but said poison alone could not kill him. He explained he had surpassed immunity long ago. He pushed himself upright, explaining that his body now turned poison into medicine. His expression sharpened as he declared he finally understood who the creature was. He looked up to the sky, noting the lingering sting. Unchanged after all this time, the ground trembled. The others waited tensely. Taeyong questioned the chaos, recalling how both orthodox and unorthodox factions once rushed after the Hyoma oil. Namgung asked the martial officer what to do next. He answered that they needed to hurry to the divine altar and asked if they knew the way. Sam pointed vaguely, claiming the 5 Odoji indicated that direction. Taeyong told them to stay close and follow him. Leaping forward with force, he shot upward, energy exploding from his feet. The wall shattered. Stones flew. The onlookers froze, unable to speak. Smoke billowed from the crater as deep cracks spread outward. One of them finally exhaled, whispering in disbelief, while Kang and Aaron reached the chamber where an icy altar rose from the cavern floor, its pillars casting pale light across the walls. Kang studied the structure and asked if this was the divine altar. Aaron confirmed, adding that the time had finally come. She asks Jang to teach her the Spear King's inner cultivation formula. Kang agreed. A voice calls out to them and asks that this altar was where the first ice crystal had been created. Kang noticed that Jium has arrived with his masked follower. Aran questioned his presence, reminding him their contract gave him no reason to appear here. Jium answered that his deals extended beyond Aaron alone. When Aaron brought up the reputations of the 10 great masters, Jium countered that his own reputation came from his work as a merchant. Because of that, he considered any method that increased profit as fair. He signaled his subordinates, who stepped forward carrying containers. When opened, black liquid surged out, spreading across the floor like a living mass. More of the substance continued pouring until it swirled and pooled, drawing Aaron's attention. The black liquid spread across the ground, ignites instantly. Flames surge upward, consuming the dark water and surrounding the area. Kang watches in shock, realizing the black water has caught fire. Erin raises her hands instinctively, bracing as energy and heat collide. The burning liquid erupts violently, splashing and spreading, yet moving with unnatural weight. The fire intensifies, lifting and swirling as if controlled. She is forced back mid-air, surrounded by flames. Kang clenches his jaw, recognizing that the substance fueling the fire is no ordinary oil. Jiam continues, stating that he is different from those who merely practice martial arts. He recalls traveling across the world, witnessing firsthand how the times are changing. He claims that the future will be decided by inventions and technology, not tradition. While traveling, he even witnessed America's weapon. He declares that even martial arts refined over decades are meaningless before this inextinguishable flame. A hooded subordinate steps forward and presents a small black sphere. Jiam releases it. He throws the object in fire, causing flames roar higher. Explosions ripple outward as the spheres scatter and detonate, tearing through the inferno. Jiam grins amid the chaos, watching the destruction unfold. More spheres are released, bouncing once before detonating again, each blast stacking upon the last. Our bro finally realizes T is the protagonist and uses his technique. A swirling tornado formed in the air, consuming every sphere in it. Jiam stared upward, his face twisting as the realization struck. This could not be real. Erin stood calmly amid the chaos. She observed the aftermath without urgency. Kang remarked that it was interesting. New inventions. Jiam barked an order for the attackers to split into two and strike at the same time. The assassins moved in unison, closing from multiple angles. Kang stepped forward, his body blurring as he passed through the first line. One attacker was thrown aside, then another, their formations collapsing instantly. Jiam fell silent, watching as his plan failed without resistance. Kang advanced again. His movements cut through the remaining attackers, each strike landing cleanly. Bodies were driven back by the force of his blows, scattering across the ground. The final assailants were struck down in rapid succession, leaving the battlefield cleared. Gaim falls silent, his expression hardening as he watches. His confidence begins to crack. He raises the sphere into the air. The object hovers between them, heavy and controlled. Jiam throws the sphere downward and moves away from that, but Kang catches the sphere in mid-air using his feet. He wonders how Jiam can move with such footwork in that body, then concludes, this is expected from one of 10 grandmasters. Jiam questions who this guy must be. He never saw this guy before. Could it be possible, if he is some hidden master who regained his youth through rejuvenation techniques? Jiam wonders what he should do now, as 10 guard tigers are down now, and obviously as a merchant he chooses a better option, the option to run. While running, he met Gunryo's group. She addressed him as Golden King and asked what had happened and whether the ice crystal had been secured. The answer came simply, they had failed. He said that an unknown supreme expert had been helping her, possibly the one brought in by the Mangryong clan. The elder dismissed it, stating that if it were him, they had already taken his life. Jiam froze, recalling that he had just been fighting that very person. They moved on toward the divine altar, noting that the ice crystal was there, as figures descended in a rush of motion and energy. Jiam's eyes locked forward in shock. A name surfaced in his mind, Spear King Fist, Taeyong. Taeyong's voice carries through the cavern, noting that everyone has gathered. Before he can react, Taeyong's group also arrived. Footsteps skid across the stone. Namgung curses under his breath about why they keep running to these guys. The woman grips her weapon. He questions her intent, asking if she truly plans to fight. She steadies herself and decides there is no other choice. If she does not stand her ground here, then she will not be able to face her master at Manhua. Baldy lunges forward with a roar, striking with overwhelming force, while Sam swings a staff down from above. He states that he may be 6th disciple of the beggar's sect, but if rumored spread about him running like coward, then it will be worse than death. Namgung raises his voice and asks if everyone has lost their minds. He falls silent for a moment, then reflects that only mountain rabbits remain in the Namgung clan, where tigers once roamed. He tells everyone to wait and grips his sword, drawing it as he steps forward. Namgung charges, his blade cutting through opponents as he announces that the tiger of the Namgung clan has arrived. Bodies are thrown aside as he advances through the clash, whereas the real fight is about to start. Taeyong states that he heard an interesting story from Seo Jiho. He points out that the Ice Palace has brought in a demonic cult monster and accuses them of plotting to dominate the martial world. Declaring it treason against the Ming dynasty, he places them under arrest. Gunryo questions the charge of treason and asks what the Martial Alliance has done for Northern Ice all this time. She declares that as of today, Northern Ice is withdrawing from the Martial Alliance. She claims that they can no longer guarantee the safety of Taeyong Martial Hall. Taeyong answers that it was never guaranteed in the first place. Mano, the real maniac, dismisses the chattering and lunges toward Taeyong for attack. Taeyong realizes it too late, but this time he responds and blocks the attack. They both pressed harder. Mano kicks Taeyong, sending him flying back. Namgung and Sam reacts in shock. Mano moves ahead again, his eyes glowing red. But this time Taeyong attacked Mano, sending him back. Onlookers realize that the fight is becoming more destructive. GM tries to cover Gunryo, but the impact of the attack's shockwave caught him in mid-motion. He stumbled backward. Guards try to make him conscious but fails. Gunryo notes that all 4 ice generals have been lost. Taeyong turns his gaze forward, his expression hardened. Gunryo addresses the Golden King and states that his support is needed. Gem, or say the Golden King, responds that the 10 Tiger Guards are already on their way and asks them to hold on. Gunryo watches him, acknowledging that he is considered a top expert who cannot act alone. She questions whether he can truly be trusted. The fight resumes as Mono charges again. Blows collide repeatedly, strikes landing but failing to break through. Taeyong notices that the opponent continues to defend without counterattacking. Another punch is thrown. The exchange continues with force meeting force as the clash remains unresolved. The clash intensifies as repeated impacts tear through the ground, debris scattering with each exchange. Mono remains guarded, absorbing the force while pressure builds around him. Taeyong watches closely as the opponent gathers energy. A sudden change appears, drawing attention. His hands turn blue, and he pauses to examine them. Dark discoloration spreads across his palms. He recognizes that poison is spreading through his body. Mono tightens his stance and decides to end the fight. Power gathers in his raised hand, forming a dense green mass. The energy surges outward, flooding his body as the attack takes shape. Mano attacks Taeyong to tear him apart, but Taeyong caught his hand. He explains that he was once poisoned by what is known as celestial poison. He acknowledges that he never fully overcame it, but the exposure allowed him to build resistance. The term celestial draws a reaction from Mono. Taeyong moves in, driving his strength upward and then bringing Mono down in a heavy strike. The impact crashes into the ground, sending force through the area. He continues his assault without pause, following with another downward blow. Suddenly, his expression shifts as something feels wrong. He looks down and notices a strange change spreading through his hand, darker energy mixing with the poison. Mono looms behind Taeyong, green fumes spreading as its grin widens. Taeyong senses danger and turns as Mono's clawed hand forms within the poison, stretching toward him. The poisoned arm descends. Taeyong reacts too late and raises his guard as the strike closes in. His eyes widen at the speed of the attack. Before the attack can land, another figure steps forward. The Lord of 5 Poisons raises his hand, power gathering into his palm, and confirms that he is still alive. He reaches out and catches the incoming strike with his bare hand, stopping it mid-motion. Taeyong recognizes his arrival and notes that he came at the right moment. The Lord of 5 Poisons. Sogun explains that someone left a shortcut open for him. A violent scream follows as Mono is hurled away, its body crashing into the ground and scattering debris. Taeyong looks toward the fallen figure and acknowledges that the opponent is no longer who he once was. Sogun admits that the enemy is too much for him to handle alone. Taeyong mentioned about spreading poison. Sogun steps forward and states that if Taeyong can endure 5 techniques, there may be a chance. Taeyong responds that he would be dead before 5 techniques are completed. Sogun answers that the outcome is uncertain and suggests that Taeyong's only disciple may be the deciding factor. Taeyong narrows his eyes and states that they will see. The ground trembles as energy surges again, and Mono rises with a roar, its body crackling as the fight continues. Gunryo looks ahead, her attention fixed on the battlefield as the disturbance grows stronger. The group also watched in shock. Mono steps forward, his massive frame rising as his eyes ignite. It is clear that Bro got a symbiote and evolved itself into venom. When the fight began, Mono attacks. Taeyong faced him head-on, but his fist got twisted. Mono loses at him. Taeyong attacks again, but Mono caught his hand in mid-air. Before Taeyong can understand anything, Mono penetrated his hand inside Taeyong. Then he attacks on Taeyong's legs. The group freezes Wacheong. This Mono throws him and launches his final attack to finish this. Taeyong says now it's his chance, and counterattacks Mono with headbutt. Mono was too focused on Taeyong that he couldn't notice that Sogun appears behind him. Sogun catches Mono's head and launches his attack. The sphere that was used by Geum was in Sogun's hand. He remarked that it's been a while. Poison Demon. Hearing Poison Demon name, the group became shocked. Sogun throws the sphere at Mono. Mono lets out a roaring cry. Mono's body convulses under the force. His expression twists as the energy tears through him, and his limbs are thrown upward before his body crashes back down. Observers react in shock. A guard tried to retain Gunryo and stopped her going ahead. Mono is hurled again, slammed into the ground headfirst as the power detonates beneath him. His body goes limp, embedded in the shattered surface. Geum acknowledges the impossible outcome, recognizing that a master of the demonic sect has been defeated and that the situation has reversed. Amid the confusion, he decides to withdraw and turns away to leave. He suddenly stops, sensing something off, and looks ahead. He noticed Kang. Kang approaches Taeyong and remarks that everything seems to be resolved, and Taeyong states that Kang arrived faster than expected. He asks about Seolaron's whereabouts. The answer follows that Seolaron is currently undergoing the process of accepting the ice. Taeyong points out that Seolaron should have been guarded and questions why Kang came here instead. Kang replies that all threats have already been eliminated and credits everyone present. The group falls silent at his words. Geum realizes that this means Seolaron is alone. He notes that the others do not know the sun pill was fake and concludes that Seolaron is completely defenseless while absorbing the ice essence. He decides to act and declares Seolaron as his target. dead. Taeyong reacts in confusion as Sam reports that the Golden King has disappeared. It is revealed that the Golden King went to the divine altar and must have realized that Seol Aran was left alone. Alarm spreads as the situation becomes clear. Sam asks what should be done. Taeyong states directly that Seol Aran is in danger. Kang rejects the idea, insisting it cannot be true. At that moment, a sudden impact echoes from the direction of the altar. The Golden King appears, injured and restrained, his body wrapped in ice as he struggles and lets out a strange sound. Those watching from afar react as the impact spreads. Gunryo stiffens, recognizing the danger too late. Aran throws Jium and focused on Gunryo. They both face each other, whereas Mano rises again and lunges toward Aran. Some minutes ago, she realizes that the sun pill is not functioning, and Kang understands that it was never meant to work and Jium was never loyal. She states that without the sun pill, absorbing the ice crystal should be impossible. Kang steps forward and responds that there is another method. He explains that after mastering the internal techniques of the Spear King's art, he can directly infuse yang energy through himself. Seol Aran reacts with hesitation as she listens. Kang asks if she is ready. Seol Aran attempts to dismiss her condition, saying it is nothing, but her posture stiffens. Kang places his hands against her back as the technique begins. Energy flows outward from him, spreading through Seol Aran as the ice responds. Above them, the ice crystal descends slowly, drawn toward Seol Aran, as the balance between cold and heat is forcibly established. Seol Aran rose higher. Kang declared that this was as far as his role went. He addressed her as the new lord of the North Sea Ice Palace, intent on setting everything right. He looked up, expression steady as the declaration settled over the battlefield. The storm thickened, Aran focused, eyes glowing as the pressure peaked. At the present, a deep growl from Mano spread across. The onlookers reacted in shock when Mano attacked. Aran freezes his hand in an instant. Mano attacked with his second hand, sensing the danger. Aran launched an ancient attack technique. A dragon-like ice creature emerged and moves ahead. Sogun mentioned the technique as ice-white divine art. The dragon-type attack collided with Mano's frozen arm. Gunryo cries. She moves toward Mano, whose hand is cut now. Mano asks for forgiveness, saying he can't even wipe away her tears. Aran smiles at that. After this whole mess, Mano was again sealed with those chains, still covered in blood. The Muram Alliance headquarters comes into view under the daylight sky. Inside the palace, Kang stands alone by the balcony, his hair moving slightly as he looks outward. He senses a presence and turns. Seol Aran appears behind him, standing composed within the hall. He faces her, surprised by her sudden arrival. He acknowledges her position as the lord of the palace and apologizes for his earlier rudeness with a formal gesture. Seol Aran dismisses the apology and clarifies that she did not come in her role as the North Sea Lord, she stated casually, commenting on the pleasant weather of the Central Plains and remarks that she wishes the North Sea were like this. Kang asks whether matters in the North Sea are settled. She replies that they are not, and that the real problems are only beginning. She admits that perhaps things would have been better if Seol Gunryo had become the lord instead. Kang adds that she was not the rightful successor. She corrects Kang, stating that Seol Gunryo carries her grandmother's blood. She explains that her mother's younger sister, her aunt, bore a daughter with Mano. Kang reacts in shock. She states that unlike her mother, who raised her with strict discipline, her aunt was naturally kind-hearted. Aran explained that she eventually helped the poison demon escape and lived with him, but died while giving birth to Gunryo. Later, after Gunryo was taken into the palace by her grandmother, she learned the truth. Her biological father had been imprisoned and tortured by the grandmother. Kang states that Seol Gunryo then sought revenge against the former lord and attempted to seize power for herself. He said that relying solely on the poison demon's strength was reckless for such an ambition. Seol Aran replied that the ruling class of the palace disliked her, which had worked in her favor. She said she was tired of watching people die struggling in that harsh land, and wanted to change the North Sea through commerce and trade, but they opposed her. Kang remarked that there was still a long way to go. Seol Aran said that was why she was leaving on a journey to clear her mind. When Kang questioned her, she revealed that starting that day, she is a member of the Muram Alliance Special Forces. Kang reacted in disbelief as the banner of the Muram Alliance Special Forces rises, and an order to march follows. Elders and fighters move forward on horseback, the force assembling and departing together. Aran advances at the front with others behind her, while Kang watches as the group sets out. The view widens to open land and forest paths, and the marching force moves steadily away from the city. And this is where the story ends. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Let me know your thoughts of this manhwa through comment section.